Greetings once again. Here I have a small scroll called The Sayings of Dr. Malachi Z. York, and I'll just go through some of these until class commences later on. Okay, I'm going to start at number 409, and number 409 says, "Only your body is locked up, not your soul. Now free your spirit and your body will follow." Only your body is locked up, not your soul. Now free your spirit and your body will follow. Here's number 411. It says, "Just because a person kisses you doesn't mean they love you. Just because a person kisses you doesn't mean they love you." That's number 411. Number 413. Number 413 says, "Don't pray for another, pray with them." Don't pray for another, pray with them. Let's go to another one here. Number 436. Number 436 from the Sayings of Dr. Malachi Z. York says, "You work for your money, make it work for you." You work for your money, make it work for you. Here is number 438. "A journey is not begun with the first step, but rather with the first thought." Number 438. "A journey is not begun with the first step, but rather with the first thought." Number 441 from the Sayings of Dr. Malachi Z. York, "More people are killed by words than by weapons." More people are killed by words than by weapons. Number 442, "The kind of music you like says what kind of person you are." The kind of music that you like says what kind of person you are. Number 434 from the Sayings of Dr. Malachi Z. York, "Your skin does not make you Nubian. Your commitments do." Your skin does not make you Nubian. Your commitments do. This is number 423. "Don't fight sleep. You can't win." Don't fight sleep. You can't win. Number 421. "Help yourself doesn't mean eat it all." Help yourself doesn't mean eat it all. Number 427. from the sayings of Dr. Malachi Z. York. The book is not holy. The words are not holy. What you read is. The book is not holy. The words are not holy. What you read is. Number 429. I will work for you all day if it will help us. I will work for you all day if it will help us. Number 433. Number 433 says, if you close your eyes in prayer, the evil one can sneak up on you. If you close your eyes in prayer, the evil one can sneak upon you. Number 449 says, you are the guide to your family. They need your guidance. You are the guide to your family. They need your guidance. Number 450, number 450 says, and this is from the sayings of Dr. Malachi Z. York, drink from the cup of life's knowledge. You need it. Drink from the cup of life's knowledge. You need it. Number 452. The only time your head should be hung down is when you have dropped something. The only time your head should be hung down is when you have dropped something. Number 455 says, and this is from the sayings of Dr. Malachi Z. York, number 455 says, share as much of joys as you do your sadness. Share as much of joys as you do your sadness. Number 408, women are men with more complaints. Number 408, women are men with more complaints. Number 395 says, don't give gifts that make your heart will regret. Don't give gifts that your heart will regret, nor to just make friends. That's 395. Don't give gifts that your heart will regret, nor to just make friends. Number 396 says, you make yourself what you are. You make yourself what you are. Number 397 says, close the door of your heart to evil forever. Close the door of your heart to evil forever. Number 401, an apple loves what it is. Why don't you? An apple loves what it is. Why don't you? Number 447 says, I don't need your prayer, I need your help. I don't need your prayer, I need your help. Number 448 says, too much laughter will make you sick. Too much laughter will make you sick. Number 410, 410, you are your pet's pet. Number 410, you are your pet's pet. $412, tonight will come, even if you don't want it to. Tonight will come, even if you don't want it to. Number 414, from the sayings of Dr. Malachi Z. York. Don't complain, change it. Don't complain, change it. Number 415, the best gift to give anybody is loyalty. The best gift to give anybody is loyalty. Number 416 says, short steps are safer than big leaps. Short steps are safer than big leaps. Number 418, gifts should come from the heart, not wealth. Gifts should come from the heart, not wealth. Number 419, if you keep everything you love, you won't have any room for yourself. If you keep everything you love, you won't have any room for yourself. Number 422, from the sayings of Dr. Malachi Z. York. Teamwork can be fun. Whose team are you on? Teamwork can be fun. Whose team are you on? Number 424, those who yell the loudest never fight. Those who yell the loudest never fight. Number 425, one day we will all die. Be careful and don't rush it. One day we all die. Be careful and don't rush it. Number 431, the medicine for you is joy. The medicine for you is joy. Let's go to the other end here. Number 201. This is from the sayings of Dr. Malachi Z. York. Number 201 says, think before you act, or at least act like you're thinking. Think before you act, or at least act like you're thinking. Number 194. Keeping your name clean is harder than keeping your body clean. Keeping your name clean is harder than keeping your body clean. Number 195. Stop talking so much and get to the point. What do you want? Stop talking so much and get to the point. What do you want? Number 189. When you give to others, you are giving to yourself. When you give to others, you are giving to yourself. Number 191. You can avoid a fight by not being there. You can avoid the fight by not being there. Number 192 says, people want to speak to you about their problems, not caring if that is causing you problems. People want to speak to you about their problems, not caring if that is causing you problems. Number 183 says, a pure being is always dissatisfied with his present state. A pure being is always dissatisfied with his present state. Number 184 says, just because many listen to a person doesn't mean he speaks the truth. Just because many listen to a person doesn't mean he speaks the truth. Number 185. In washing another's feet, your hands become clean. In washing another's feet, your hands become clean. Number 167. Just because a camel lets you ride him does not mean you should ride him everywhere you go. Just because a camel lets you ride him does not mean you should ride him everywhere you go. Number 166 from the sayings of Dr. Malachi Z. York says, are you living for tomorrow, or do you realize tomorrow never comes, for each day is today? Are you living for tomorrow, or do you realize tomorrow never comes, for each day is today? Number 165 says, always do your best, because that is the best you can do. Always do your best, because that is the best you can do. Number 162 says, fire, like your will, can be used for you or against you. Fire, like your will, can be used for you or against you. Number 161 says, birth is the first step into the learning of life. Birth is the first step into the learning of life. Number 159 says, time is an ever-present reality that knows no past or future. Time is an ever-present reality that knows no time, that knows no past or future.
Thank you, Harah and Nabab Jadefre Hatap. Can I be heard clearly?
Yes, you can. I can hear you very clearly.
Yes, you can.
Okay. Greetings. Thank you. And welcome everybody to another Wu-Sabat Outformation class in the UK. Brought to you by All Eyes on Egypt, Midlands and the North. And it's the proof by way of Nabab, Yaanuwn, part 3. So I think the part 1s and 2s are not quite out yet. So they should be out shortly on our YouTube channel, but they should be available on our Facebook page, the live classes. So welcome everybody. And as I say, just remind everybody, I think we slightly changed the order for when we're doing the classes this month. So we've got one this Sunday or today and next Sunday. So there might be a slightly one class in January and then back to normal in February, fortnightly classes. So yeah, so obviously you always check your emails if you're registered. So that tells you if we shift any dates just around our availability, which has been a little bit tricky over the last few months. So appreciate your patience and bearing with us. So we'll get into today's session. Obviously, if you've not attended one of these before, then we'll please ask questions so you don't feel isolated, and we're trying to say cover briefly maybe some of the subjects that we covered before, but obviously we need to get into part 3 to help us then advance into part 4 for next week. Okay, right, so just bear with me one moment. Okay, so we're not going to run any polls today, just because I had some tricky issues with the tech. So just to stay stable, we'll leave that for the moment. So if there are any issues with the sound, or you cannot see the screen, then please, by all means, let us know in the chat area, which I'm going to enable now, because it might be that people can't get in. Okay, so the chat should be enabled now. I don't know why Zoom I've done that feature like that. It used to be automatic. We have to switch it on now. So there we go. So what we're going to do is start off with the affirmation, Partak Yud, which is us as Sabians, or Musbatu in the Sabec language. It's just a cultural expression, very important one, no doubt, just for us connecting with our ancestors. So we want a positive experience for the class today. And you'll get to know more about this as we step through this particular part, because I'm going to go through it in some detail, given its relevance to what we've been talking about in parts 1 and 2. So I'm going to say in the Sabec language in the first instance, and then translate into English for proper understanding for those who speak the English language. Okay. Adoy kale tapalurat Wufakur ame kasam un empa paut anuki jawef pa ashuk empa paut wu kalel ashuk kawun jawef neya anuki kasam un empa paut Wu pa paut kawun kasam un emneya. Anuki wahu ameh pa paut. Wu pa paut kawun wahu ameh neya. Nakuk kadur najuk ameh kasam un empa paut. Wu khabub ameh mushahas un. Nakuk kadur kawan kalel pafef nakuk tayur jawef pa paut. Ameh wase ameh tayarni kawun lakei bakoe jawef pa paut. Anuki abed bin afashni pa paut kawun anuki pa paut kadur nakuk kadur pa paut amul nakuk amul. So he said, for everybody's understanding, begin all prayers and thinking as a part of the all. We missed that in that top part, but na'ut muqdad baded patah, na'ut mukhlas baded Yaanuwn. So no God except patah, no savior except Yaanuwn. So patah, the opener, the head of the nine of our Ethric ancestry, responsible for the version of existence that we're in currently, and obviously our growth story here on this particular planet, known in tones as Patanun. Then we said, I'm in the divine love of the all expanding, and all divine love is in me. I'm a part of the all expanding, and the all expanding is a part of me. I am one as the all expanding, and the all expanding is one as me. I can succeed as a part of the all expanding and fail as an individual person. I can be all that I want in the all expanding as long as my want is to stay in the all expanding. I am never by myself. The all expanding is, I am. The all expanding can, I can. The all expanding does, I do. So that was Partak Yud, the affirmation there. And as I say, a cultural expression, very important one. And so when we step through the class today, you'll get a better understanding of Pa, Pa'ut, and Pa'ut, and how that relates to you and our spiritual science known as Wu-Sabat. So join us for the first time. So I've enabled the chat area. You should have this if you join us online, which is a menu bar of options. So the three that we are using today in particular are these three in the middle. Audio settings, if you need to adjust those for any reason, then that is on the left hand side as the option for you. The chat is now enabled. So if you've got messages which are not questions, could be feedback, positive, negative, etc., then select everyone as a distribution option. So that means everybody can see what you're saying, not hosts and panelists, which can sometimes be the default, and then post in the chat. So say feedback, etc. Anything that's not questions, place it in the chat area. Now, it is an interactive session, or it's not, or a class, and so therefore the way to ask questions is twofold. So we've got the first option here is to raise one's hand, and if you do that, then you've got the opportunity to come through live and ask your question direct to myself as your student teacher today. Should introduce myself, Nabab Kakni Hess, and so ask your question to me live, and I'll do my best to answer your question. The facilitators today, you'll see this message appear on your screen once they'll call out your name. When you see that message appear on your screen, unmute yourself, and then you'll be able to ask your question directly. If you have dialed in today, I don't think anybody has, but if you have dialed in today, then *9 to raise your hand, and then *6 to unmute yourself once prompted. In both instances, when we give you permission to unmute yourself, you can do so at will. So once you've asked your question, if you can stay muted for the remainder of the session, unless you've obviously got another question to ask, just to not disturb the rest of the call. The other way to ask questions, if you do not want to come through live, then you press the Q&A button, simply type your question in, and then one of the facilitators will ask that question on your behalf. And I say I'll do my best to answer. If it's not the answer's not quite correct, or you feel you need more, then by all means either do a follow-up question so that you can get the answers that you need today. Now, generally, the answers are, so questions and answers are focused around the subject area. And that's not because we don't want to answer questions from different subjects. It's just so that basically you are mastering what the master teacher is teaching. Do you understand? So that's where we try and get you at least to leave with some into an understanding of what subject that we're teaching today, as we can have a tendency to, our doctrine is so vast, obviously clearly we can go in many different directions, but the purpose is obviously for you to start grasping and learning different aspects of your or our culture, and to say mastering it, obviously, so that certain concepts, as I say, within Wu-Sabat are clear and are made plain for you. We're not running any polls today, but we'll do before the end of these series of classes, just to see whether the knowledge that you have acquired during these sessions has been embedded and you've retained some of it. And if not, then we can look at that and clarify areas where that's not the case. So nothing to be afraid of. No one's being marked in that regard. It's all anonymous, but it's just really for you to test yourself to see what you know versus what you still are yet to know. So let's get into a bit of an introduction. But before that, just bear with me one moment. Okay, apologies for that slight delay. So who is the master teacher and who are we? So we've already explained that we are united Sabians worldwide, and we are known as Sabians or Musbatu, and our doctrine or the spiritual science of the Sabian or Negroid or Nagaru in this day and time is referred to as Wu-Sabat, dealing with factual information. And that was brought to us by the person who we affectionately refer to as the master teacher, called Dr. Malachi Z. York Okran, and but known spiritually as the Master Yaanuwn. And this book that we're dealing with today, called The Proof by way of Nabab, Yaanuwn, deals with that. So born physically in Takoradi, Ghana, which is in, say, West Africa, you see on the screen. They are June 26, 1945, and is the product of Mary Abba Akran York. She was also known as Fatima, born March 10th, 1929, and she is from the Iwe tribes, a group of Iwe tribes, of the Akan tribes in West Africa, in Ghana. So his Native American side and the Ghanaian side both come out of the legacy, or as I say, the genetics of Mary Abba Akran York. And it's important, as I say, we are a matriarchal people, Wu-Sabat is feminine in origin, in actuality. And so it's important, as I say, not that you know who you should know, as I say, the roots of the tree that you are partaking fruit from. Do you understand? And so as ontologists, we're interested in the source, or going back to the source or the essence of a being, and that applies to knowledge, many different types of subject. And so in order to do that, you have to know, when you're dealing with a teacher, or as I say, some may refer to as a leader, then obviously you're going to do your research into the individual, and more so the doctrine that they're teaching, its origin and where it's from. And a good way to understand a little bit about who a person is to understand their genetics. And being that, as I say, we are matriarchal, then we acknowledge the other, or the mother, the sacred feminine first. It's important, as I say, to understand who the person's parents are. So Mary Abercran York, as I say, born March 10th, 1929, transitioned now to be one of our ancestors, or Salafu, as they say in the Sabaic language, physical, from your physical 1 in 30 ancestors, and now she obviously becomes part of the larger group. This is her in the clan mother attire. Just say, see the various different crowns, and we acknowledged, as I say, in the last class, that obviously you see some of the colors there being used in the depiction here that's shown. You can see that some of the sacred colors in actuality, or certainly many cultures around the world connected to ancient Egypt, claim those to be sacred colors. For example, like the Dogon in Mali. Understood? So they have some significant importance to us, and you see them here, at least in this diagram, depicted in the, I suppose, the lotus flower, which we've done a large series of classes on the lotus flower in other circle of existence. And so a symbol of regeneration or renewal, as you see. They are, as I say, depicted throughout, as I say, our culture as the ancient Egyptians understood. So, as I say, sacred feminine passed on through her daughter, Kimamtat Mokpatare Atumraye, and then another new appointment of a clan mother has happened very recently. So, again, you can see us re-establishing our culture to be matriarchal once again. So within the context, as I say, of us being both male and female, whilst here in the physical, when we start to talk about etheric, or us in the spiritual as energy beings, then the gender conversation is irrelevant. Now, his father, Al-Hadi Abdul Rahman Al-Mahdi, say born in 1922, and this is where gets his the Sudanese legacy from the term Sayyid. They see from this book here called The Guidance. So if you want more information into that side of the story of the master teacher, then it's a very good book to look into. Say he's was the grandson of, as I say, Mustafa Muhammad al-Mahdi of the Sudan, and say a master spiritualist, descended, as I say, from those pre-dynastic ancient Egyptians, from the Dongolawi tribe, and hired by the Sudanese, as I say, to drive the British and the Turks out of Africa. And this is Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi, or the master teacher, at age 25, when he explains that it was housed by being known as El Khadir, the Green One. So you have to understand that many of these things may sound fantastical or strange, but it relates to the fact that our story renews itself from above, not from below. Understand? And what we mean by that statement is to say that we don't learn about ourselves through archaeology, paleontology, and these other different types of ologies where our ancestors have buried things under the ground, and now through what may be classified as modern science, they're digging up, obviously, for proof about things that happened before they existed, or at least the people in control of the information source on the planet are digging up things to find out, say, what took place in the past. Well, if you were there from the very origin of things and you grew the thing, then you would know. In our case, we did know, and as I say, we are suffering from this spell. In the Bible, they refer to it as Leviathan. In ancient Sumeria, they refer to this spell as the spell of Kingu, and in ancient Egypt, it was referred to as a spell of Amam. You understand? In various different types or guises, but one of the characteristics or the symptoms of it is amnesia. So the fact of the matter is we don't know how our story renews itself or even had concept other than what we were taught by Europeans, the Mukasu, the Caucasian, and based on their information sources, which effectively pin the spiritual religious world of monotheism, at least, into a 6,000 year window, when there are things on the planet which are obviously older than 6,000 years. You understand? And actually, when you look into the books that they claim to follow, the Bible or the Torah, as in Genesis, is not the beginning, it just happens to be a beginning. But that's if it even can be proven to have taken place. Do you understand? So when we start jumping into the mix of getting into discussions with them, when our minds were opened in 1993, well, 67 originally, or 63, excuse me, originally, but going through a very serious amount of schools to try and remove this spell, you're now starting to look at, well, the questions are going to be arising. Well, can you prove that any of this actually took place? Rather than getting into detailed discussions about mythology, well, you've got to prove first that it actually took place and existed. Because when we look at our story and we look at the various different monuments that have been left and the legacy left by our ancestors and their descendants, still today, we can see evidence of what took place in the past, and we can see evidence of how it connects to the planet, the universe, to the human body, so on and so forth. We see this connection or this pattern that's taking place, like this kind of golden thread, and sound that weaves its way through, or like a sound that's made and the resonance, the echo, you can see, which has, as I say, the elements of the original sound within it. You can see that present within our culture, but we can't see that when we look into their culture. We can't see the evidence. We can't see things in stone. We can't see things in brick. We can't see things in metal or steel that has been here for thousands or if not millions of years. We can't see those things. You understand? But what we can see is copies of things that came before. So the point is that we shouldn't feel, well, we will feel strange because that's how they've programmed us to feel that way. But our story has to renew itself. If we knew the culture, I say every 24, some round it down to 24,000, but every 24,000 years, which happens to be the miles in the circumference of the planet. So our story must renew itself every 24,000 years. And the being responsible, or the seat responsible, and the being then housing that seat was known as Amun Nabab Raya Akhtar. Now, the ancient Egyptians, or us as the ancient Egyptians, gave you a piece of that name and referred to that being as Tahuti. Do you understand? That's really the Achah in the name Amun Nabab Raya Akhtar Pata. You understand? So a piece of it was given, or how he was known. When you look at the Safaf, or the hieroglyphic symbol for that, that's where you see the link to who they refer to as Tahuti. You understand? So this is the point, is that talks about beings coming in, or our ancestors coming in from above down, obviously, to give us that necessary information to realign ourselves once again. In the context of the Amun Nabab Raya Akhtar, that is a vehicle or a vessel that is created to allow our ancestors to speak through the vessel, you understand, in order to convey the necessary information which we need to transform us. So that is the vehicle or vessel that brings or where our ancestors are expressing outformation, and then through the message of the Amun Babre Akhtar that comes through to us as information. Understood? In order to be able to transform us. Understood? Because information, as you know, keeps you in a certain formation. And that certain formation had us, as I say, in the image and after the likeness of other than self and kind. And so Wu-Sabat, as the spiritual science of the Negroid race, all the different races have their own spiritual science, but Wu-Sabat, as a spiritual science of the Negroid race, helps us to unify mentally and therefore allows us then to come together physically. So outformation is the way that we are informed. You understand? We're not informed necessarily by digging up the bones of our ancestors out of the ground to discover who they were. We are outformed, understood, to be informed. Yeah? So that's the source of how we do things. And so in order to break this spell of ignorance that our people were suffering from, the doctor aspect is important, because we could say Dr. Malachi KZ York, the doctor part denotes healing that was required, you understand, or a solution that was required for the sickness that we had invaded our minds, where we were not in our own minds, we're in somebody else's mind and set of thinking through the science in this society referred to as multiple choice, you understand? So the choices are presented to us and we pick out of those choices, but we think we're thinking, and when we're not really thinking, we're just choosing out of what somebody has already put up ahead of us and then said, okay, well, for example, in religion, these are the choices that you have and the variations within those choices, called sex, those choices which are designed to capture, those of you who designed to capture the people who are happy with the mainstream, and then designed to capture those who want to be a bit left field of the mainstream. There's always a choice out there for you to select from and pick, you understand, which they consider to be the status quo, so to speak. But as soon as you select something that's outside of that, or present something that's outside of those choices, then it becomes problematic, or certainly for our people, historically, it's been problematic. So Al-Khadir was the being that housed Isa al-Mahdi at age 25, and that allowed them to convey the message of the first 30 years, which dealt with the religious schools. And as we've expressed in this class before, that then moved in 1996 to release a book called The Holy Tablets, which was the bridge between religion and reality. Very comprehensive book, you understand, well over 1,000 pages. And this dealt with, as I say, where the religions have been copied from, and all the various different stories that had circulated around the world dealing with certain events that had taken place. But within that book, even when you really look at it, it was laced or intertwined with ancient Egypt. So you were being given the information leading you back to the source, which is Mother Africa. You understand? And so that you would at least get this understanding of, where all roads lead back to. Understood? And so a new combination was needed in alignment with the end of the devil's rule, 9th of September 1999, the end of their 6,000 year rulership. And as I say, the switching over, or the changing of the guard, maybe one might say, with the incoming of the sun cycle for the year 2000, which would represent the second half an hour. So if you imagine each of the different elders, or the 24 elders given, or incarnated masters, I should say, some incarnated at certain points to oversee our development and growth. So each one symbolically given an hour. So that hour symbolically was 1970 to 2000, first half an hour, second half an hour, 2000 to 2030. So at the switching point in 2000, and leading up to that, we're preparing now to learn about our culture. So put the religion to one side now, and the reintroduction of Wu-Sabat and the reconnection to Wu-Sabat as our spiritual science And now the introduction of the new spirituality for this day and time is factual information. So we're getting back to knowing things again. So as the time was right, then Nabab Yaanuwn emerged once again, having been there, as I say, in 63, but the doctrine information was too heavy at that time for the people to give us what he really came to give. You understand? So we had to be taught to learn to appreciate our culture, to learn to be curious about our culture once again, because the site had been set up to basically, stamp all over the legacy of ancient Egypt, you understand, and certainly stamp all over any connection that Black people had to ancient Egypt. The people in Egypt today are not, us as Egyptians were not Islamists, you understand, we were not Mohammedans in any way, shape or form. Those things have come in by way of invasion. So there's a conflict, as I say, between those two ideologies, one may say, and most to say the world does not really even know the proper name of what the ancient Egyptians followed. There's many names been given, etc. But are they correct? Are they accurate? How do you know? Do you understand? So, you judge us now by making those claims, a step above, as I say. The Dr. Benya canons used to talk about the Egyptians, where us now in this day and time say, well, we are Egyptians, you understand, with an I, not the Y, you understand? So not to be confused with the Greek term Aegyptos, which means burnt faces. We were not burnt black, we were original black, you understand, through our supreme melanin, you understand, gifted to us, as I say, by our ancestors who created us and obviously shaped this supreme form for this planet when the conditions were right. So we've been taking you through, as I say, in Nabab Yaanuwn, or depiction of Nabab Yaanuwn here, a certain stance, and they were known by the ancient Egyptians, as I say, as the Natharu. You understand, many terminology used, but their proper name is Mozaku or Riskians. Now the depiction, as we've shown you in the earlier parts of the class, or this class at least, was showing the Parnathara as sons. You understand? So obviously us in this form are the terrestrial representation of the sun. We breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. You breathe on your hand, you feel heat. So we have a lit sun inside of us, referred to as our solar plexus, and it's our physical sun. So the terrestrial representation of that in this incarnation. And so the higher version of us is the Parnatharu, and we are their children, and they are depicted as sons. It's an S-U-N, sons. Yeah. So energy, pure energy in that regard. And as I say, we are interconnected or interlinked. So the image of God or Most High, or this divinity, as we've known to be able to express it from what we were taught in the monotheistic religions, or many of us were taught in the monotheistic religions, using these terminologies in a way where, say, we had no image of what that looked like. Do you understand? Not the way we vividly have an image of family in the way that we are aware of family. So if you think about your legacy, if you've got a mother and father, for example, then if you know who they are, then you've got a clear image of who they are if you knew them. Do you understand? So that's not supposed to change just because we switch from physical to what people may loosely call spiritual. Do you understand? Or the world of the unseen. Do you understand? So because that's the bridge between the seen and the unseen is called symbolism. Yeah, let me say that again. So the bridge between the seen and the unseen is symbolism, or the use of symbols. Understood? Which you see within the secrets of what they call hieroglyphics, but the proper term is safaf. You understand? Or safafat, plural. You understand? So the safaf script, you understand, are symbols, and the symbols are the bridge between the seen and the unseen. So basically, the world that we sit in, existence is mainly darkness, I say in the previous parts is what we've been re-emphasizing again, or pulling it together from, as I say, the proof by way of Pa Nabab Yaanuwn. And our particular focus, if I skip through these, the particular focus has been around verse 2 in the introduction of this book called The Proof, where it talks about so this truth is unity and falsehood is division. Truth is unity because the pieces of the true jigsaw puzzle fit neatly together as one union. So this, and falsehood is division because it is just the opposite. So it doesn't fit together. So when we talk about this, I'm using the word legacy, where we want to call it connection, oustery, you understand? It's just talking about this kind of thread within nature. This picture, as you can see, that shows this connection. And what we've been expressing to you, at least, is how these pieces of the jigsaw puzzle that we may not have been paying much attention to fit neatly together. And what is the origin of this? What does that picture look like? And, grateful to Pa Nabab Yaanuwn, Dr. Malachi KZ York as a master teacher. He's been building that picture for us since 1963. The problem is with the Luciferians, the Satanists, and other different types of groups who, as I say, through the science of their religion, which is really Wicca, you understand, which deals with needing a people to subsist off of, you understand, because as energy beings, understood, whilst we produce energy, we also are, if we're not careful, you understand, we can become a victim insofar as we become prey for those who wish to feed upon that energy. Do you understand? Or negative aspects of that energy that we have the capability to produce. Do you understand? And remember, there's a statement that we've made a long time ago to say, if you pray the wrong way, you become prey. You understand? And so the religion is set up in a way where it causes, as I say, or sets you up almost in a sense to be food for either carnate physical entities or discarnate beings of low energy that you can't see, to feed off of your energy. Do you understand? Or feed off the negative energy that one produces. And when you really understand, or the way our eyes have been uncovered by the master teacher, you really start to see, wow, the way this thing has been put together, it's set up for us to express negative emotions so that, as I say, various different forces can feed off of that, whether that's physically or whether that is spiritually, is set up in that way, because you are both a physical and a spiritual etheric being. And if you don't have control of where those energies go because of your ignorance, then understood, you won't even have a clue that is set up for you in that way, and how the religion is set up in that way, not the practice or the traditions of the religion, the science of it, the science of religion, interference of the dead into the lives of the living. You understand? And you see it in your language, you won't even see it. You say to each other, good morning. MOURNING. Yes, it's set up all around death. Yes, 6 ether. And these lower energy forces within the society. So us being able to see the true jigsaw or the true picture, and oftentimes the reason why we don't see the true picture is because there is like a veil that's been placed upon our minds, our eyes, and even in this society, in the way certain things are set up, there's a barrier almost that's been put to try and block us from receiving the black light or the true light from the suns, you understand, from our ancestors. But yet it mimics. It's like we call it, the master teacher refers to it as various different secret societies as being the eclipse of the Sun of Righteousness. And eclipse comes in between, or blocks, at least partially, for a time, temporarily, blocks the light of the suns from hitting, as I say, the people. You understand? So not the true darkness or the blackness that we are not fearful of, but it creates a, as I say, temporary blockage of us receiving, say, that black light, or blocks the outformation from being, well, not being sent out, but blocks the outformation from us receiving it in our informational present being. Understood? Which aids our transformation. Understood? So this is, very, we spent maybe, I don't know, 2, and this is the 3rd class, isn't it? Just speaking about this verse on its own, just to make a bit more sense. Okay, so let's get into where we were. So we were just giving a breakdown of, as I say, the makeup of existence. I think I've explained this a couple of times. If there's questions on it, then fire away. But I'm not planning to go back over it again unless there's questions. Are there any questions? I'll move on to the next section.
No questions.
Okay.
No questions on the side.
Okay. Totactui. So so we went through the grand plan. I think you can sort of see there, and we were about to go into the story of Arashta, or Isis. Now, I'll very quickly kind of just give the context so that people know what we're talking about. Now, what we was explaining with this true jigsaw puzzle was we were given an inkling into where our doctrine is sort of pointing us into what that picture looks like. So we're the very origin of things, and the patterns that we see and correlations that we see within nature. You understand? So the fact that, as I say, our makeup, or the science of the human body, is in correlation with the planet. So 71% water. The planet is, we've got 71% liquid makeup within our body, which is water, include blood, etc., bile, all other liquids in the body, and 29% is solid. In the same similar connection to the planet. The planet has a central sun, despite what they teach, 600 miles in diameter, and we have a central sun, referred to as a solar plexus. You understand? So the makeup of the atom, the makeup of the human being, the makeup of the planet, understood, the makeup of a solar system, the makeup of a universe on into dual verse, there's a correlating pattern, from the original source of where these things emanated from. And a group of people represent that source, or are still connected to that source, referred to as the Ba'a, or our second soul. Do you understand? So when we talk about beyond our physical ancestry, well, then our etheric ancestry, if you want to refer to it as that, or the etheric connection, is referred to as a person's soul seed, and it links to the mental for our understanding, and the part of it that links to the mental that is in us, or that we refer to as mind. You understand? But what we're saying is my individual portion of the mental reservoir, you understand, which we're all linked to, and the ka'a, or the spiritual you, obviously enables that direct connection. Do you understand? And so we went through the grand plan, which talks about this link to this very special star system called a tri-star system, but it's now binary. One of the stars was depleted of energy, so Sirius A and B, binary star system. But recently, I say, modern astronomy discovered there was a Sirius C. And we were reading about the history of Sirius C as it related to about 9 billion years ago, if we're going to use that those years. So 9 billion years ago, in relation to our ancestors, higher ancestors, or the Tharu, who had no need for the physical body anymore, and then, as I say, ascended to a higher plane of existence in an instantaneous moment. But yet there were people amongst their group who were, let's say, too physical to make that ascension in that moment, but their behavior and the fact that they were connected would have affected those higher realms of existence, and so they cut the gateway off, you understand, by collapsing Sirius C. As we know, the 18th galaxy is what we're in, and it's connected to the 19th galaxy, which in the Quran they refer to as Yaanuwn. As a 19th galaxy, we know that Sirius is the gateway between the 18th and the 19th galaxy, and also the corresponding planet to Ptah Nun, or Earth, is known as Rizq or Razak. Understand? And so that planet is in the 19th galaxy, you understand, as part of a trisolar system. You understand? So that connection to where our ancestors came from, you understand, but elevating to a higher level of existence, but then cutting that pathway off to protect the next level of existence from the, I suppose, physical mindset of their descendants, you understand, who had no interest in elevating higher, and therefore the mindset would maybe poison those higher realms. It was cut off. But what we're obviously expressing to you is that a pathway was still left to get to them. Do you understand? A pathway was left, and this is what we're explaining to some degree to you as part of these today's session and the last one. But what was it also expressing was that you can see here, so here we see that the Sirius tri-star constellation, now binary, in a sense, is shaped like an egg. You understand? And so the fact in our culture, in the symbolism of our culture, it was associated with Erashtat, or who they Greeks call Isis, some refer to as Aset. You understand? It was associated with Aset, the female. You understand? The Orion star constellation, or its corresponding star constellation, was associated with the male. You understand? Now, associated with the male. You understand? So, and associated with Asar. You understand? So, or the Greeks referred to as Osiris. You understand? Now, when you look at the term Osiris, you can see that it breaks down, isn't it? You're saying Osiris. Yeah, Osiris is really saying Osiris. So it's taking it back again into the Sirius star constellation, and that link to where our own etheric ancestors, who the Egyptians, as they referred to as the ancient Egyptians referred to as the Natharu, you understand, but which means overseers, but their name is Rizqians, you understand, which means providers. Yeah, so, and our connection to them, you see it there. So it still goes back to what we're talking about, or what's shaped like an egg. And you can see again in its sort of path there, you get the sort of double helix shape. You understand? So you see an egg here. We're seeing that the orbit that's been mapped. Yeah, so on the left-hand side is what the Dogon had mapped out. No seemingly, modern sort of telescopes and things of that nature, yet had strong scientific understanding of the movement of Sirius A and B, and knowledge of Sirius C, which is only modern day astronomy has been able to detect this long defunct star, understood, or purposely defunct star in that regard. So we can see here an egg. We can see here a double helix formation. We then get a place on Earth referred to as Egg Island in Antarctica, understood, and we talked to you about the correlation there to Egg Island, and we showed you the map. You can go on Google Earth in your own time, and then look at this place called Egg Island, which, as I say, before the last ice age, over 50,000 years ago, was a fertile land. And we see many countries around the world now vying for control of Antarctica, because they know underneath the ice is, a lot of mineral wealth, oil, and the likes, as I say, which has been there for millions of years. So our ancestors placed cells in the waters of this planet in the Indian Ocean from a base that they set up in this place in Antarctica called Egg Island. And as I say, that over many years, we were the Mer men and Mer women of this planet. So just recently depicted, or a version of it depicted in the new Black Panther movie, and obviously now in, I think, the new Avatar movie coming out, saying about the way of the water. And we know that, look, listen, the first movie had us hype. This new one that had us as in two movies, I think it was Avengers Endgame, and this one, they destroy the place. You understand? So after building you up, they destroy the place in front of your eyes, when the opportunity is there to enhance that feeling, isn't it, from the first one, to take it even further. But the opportunity to have you express negative emotions is never lost on the purpose of why these cinema, you understand, and movies, which obviously are designed to move you emotionally. But as I say, we expressed this before to you, oftentimes when we're depicted, when we're not making the movies, it's between Black exploitation and Black humiliation. Do you understand? So various degrees of that in one regard, in one way or another. So if they can get you to express negative emotions en masse, well, somebody's waiting there to feed off of all that negative emotion and negativity. It empowers various forces that keep us down. Until we understand the science of this, we will continue to feed their forces, either physically with our labor, without a plan to work our way out, or spiritually feeding their forces, I say, by way of the etheric energy that we are emitting. So, as I say, Egg Island, germs placed within the waters of this planet, and then eventually evolved. We became, as I say, mermen and merwomen, and then, as I say, by way of tsunamis, women thrown onto the land, and we emerged, as I say, in South Africa out of the Okavango swamp, and became the Sands people as they're known today. Understand? So, and this is where all our races, or 9 species of us within the Negroid race, emerge from, and in various different ways, as I say, have people at different races have, I say, use, let's say, some of the original gene pool, or the either original races or sub races, to create beings in their own image and after their likeness, to give them a genealogy here on the planet Earth. You understand? Now, some of those locations are dealing with migration, and some of those locations, different races have arisen out of there because their ancestors, their extraterrestrial ancestors, set up bases there, understood, kidnapped, or took genes in many instances, and used them to develop, as I say, their own man or mankind, or Adam, if you were to use the religious term of that. So in order to produce, as I say, a genealogy here on the planet Earth, which, as I say, you think about one semen having that spark that seeds the egg out of an ejaculation of 777,777,777 sperm in a normal man's ejaculation. Then if you think about all the sort of billions of stars, etc., out there, and then planets that produce and support life, are not always necessarily as prevalent as one may think, or support certainly humanoid life. Let me make that clear. Are not necessarily as prevalent. So therefore, when they come around, the opportunity to produce life forms and things of that nature obviously can be very appealing, do you understand? But there's supposed to be a structure and an order to how that's done, and some extraterrestrials follow that and some don't, you understand? So hence why you have terms like natural, unnatural, in that regard, you understand? So it's what's working within the system that has been designed or put in place by those Natharu, where I say that English word nature comes from. So we explained to you, say, a little bit about the connection there. So you can see Sirius star constellation. Then we've got an egg, which looks like an egg. Then you've got Egg Island, seeding life here on Earth. Understood? And the egg, or the star constellation being described there, is associated with a female who is the carrier, obviously, of eggs, and a corresponding partner is Asar. And we expressed to you before, in terms of the Orion star constellation, the fact that they are by way of the Orion Nebula. Understand this middle star in and around here, because the way it was depicted, you understand, obviously you see upright man here, and if we think about what would be under his apron there, which would be the phallus symbol, and as I say, the waters of this planet, or the elemental makeup of water, came from the Orion Nebula. Do you understand? Some 225 billion years ago, also around about 4 billion years ago, by way of comets, intelligent comets hitting this planet. You understand? Amino acids were brought here, which are basically the building blocks of life. Do you understand? 19 of them, in fact, in particular, for those who know the significance of that number as well. Understand the building blocks of cellular life. So the fact of the matter is, this is the penis, or the phallus, is a delivery device. You understand? That's simply what it is. And if you start looking at things in and around, you start seeing this correlation. Do you understand? Because remember, here the pyramids were aligned with King's Chamber. Okay, that's pointing to Orion. Queen's Chamber, that's pointing to Sirius. And then on the other side now, you get another constellation. So another chamber, excuse me, that's pointing to Draco, the Draco star constellation. And again, if you look and use your imagination and look at what these stars look like, it gives you another idea maybe of what's taking place. So this jigsaw puzzle, the true jigsaw puzzle, you understand that we've, it's been in front of our faces, but we thought, hey, our ancestors have left us without guidance, etc. No, that was not the case. The guidance was there. The spell was just so deep, we couldn't see the obvious, you understand, in front of us in terms of our daily living. And in actuality, excuse me, there was a concerted effort to keep you away from certain things. You understand? I.e., Egypt was bad, you understand, negative. Freemasonry is bad, you understand, it's negative. All the while, why they themselves are if not studying these things, digging up to find out exactly who these people are and what these mechanisms are, and these, the secret societies that we had, or orders, not secret societies, but orders which we had in place in order to teach, understand, and regulate some of the higher learning within our society, beyond just us taking care of our physical needs. So, as I say, we went through the grand plan. Let's say, if any questions on that, we will ask them so we can make certain things clearer. Understand? Now, the grand plan can be found in Tone's DNA actual facts. I'm not going to go through this. We read this in some detail before. Understand? But which was on detail before. I think this was the point that in verse 100 of actual fact number 18, we understand mind is a power created by higher beings and made part of the human experiences called mental. Do you understand? So just sort of keep that in mind. Once again, I think for those who are at the last class now into this one, just tying into what we're talking about. Yeah, so how I interlinked into that. Now, as I say, the link to Sirius BA is undeniable, and the way this explains about structure, how we showed you about races and sub-races are locked into a certain vibrational frequency within existence. Yes, so I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it's to make it clear. I say, like at one time, if you remember, they used to tell you, don't use your mobile phone in the hospital because it interferes with the equipment. So there are protocols in place when you're dealing with wireless energy or ethers, and in those cases, radio frequencies and the like. They must be separated out so they don't cause interference. So when races are created, or planetary nations that fall within or align with said systems, do you understand, called natural, yes, then yes, they have to be registered within a certain frequency range. Yeah, so there's no interference. So your ancestors can communicate to you on that frequency, your spiritual science, and lay out your ascension pathway, because, as I say, you're created, you're born physical, but that's not, and we are esoteric as well, and we're growing into something, we're becoming something, and so therefore that needs to be cultivated and grown. Do you understand? It doesn't end when the physical body expires, understood, if we've done what's necessary to make it to the next stage of growth or revolution, one might describe it as. Now, the point is we're all registered a certain frequency range, so therefore, which is linked to your genetics, you understand, and obviously linked to the way you look, your appearance, so on and so forth. The way you sound, naturally, it's all linked to this if it's done the right way. So you can't choose your religion. Your religion or your spiritual science is designed to facilitate that communication and connection with your ancestors, you understand, who know the next level of growth that you're being prepared for, you understand, in this sort of basic stage of life as a new life form, or one that is continuously in a cycle trying to master or balance out their being on this plane before they ascend. So the reality is that the different races have their own frequency level because they have their own ancestry, and they have their own and they would have their own plan of how they utilized forces within nature in order to create them. So you cannot emulate somebody else, yes, because that's not your ancestry. And when you start to interact with certain religions are linked to certain races or sub-races of people, understood, and the tones, who they're calling upon, all is designed to keep up or elicit that connection with their ancestors. So you calling upon ancestors not of your own genetics is simply a folly. Not only does it lead to idol energy, idol worship, ideally, you understand, you're getting nothing from it because there's no power in that for you. But secondly, you're opening yourself up for abuse. You understand? So, and this is why they direct our energies into other religions, which empower other races, but are to the detriment of you, because it's setting you up to be fuel or food for other races. In fact, as the master teacher expresses, monotheistic religion in particular, as I say, simply just sets you up to be subservient to other races. That's all it does. You play second-class citizen all day long in Judaism. You play second-class citizen all day long in Christianity. Second-class citizen you're going to play all day long in Islam. And as much as they protest that there's no racism in these religions, it's quite clear that there is. And many of those books, if you notice, some of the books in the first half an hour in the early 2000s, the master teacher putting together, reams and reams of pages of information, really tackling this. Some books, if you go back, and some of the books are got smaller now, but certainly those older books, 300-400 pages was the norm. You understand? Before you even start getting into the degrees, you understand, dealing with specific subjects opening your mind to what these things really are about. And actually, as I say, the root of it all is Wicca. You understand? In their context of what they're dealing with. You understand? Wicca. You understand? A watered down version of, as I say, Druidic teachings and things of that nature, which I say are prevalent now in their religion, setting you up for abuse. So you haven't had access until the master teacher came along. We've flirted, I might say. You've had inklings of that connection to the true science of the Nagaru, Wu-Sabat. You understand? Inklings of it. You understand? Flashes of it. But the purpose of transforming ourselves is so that we remain there. Yeah, we do the work necessary to remain there at all times, never to drop off or lower ourselves down, even to be vibrating on 1 to 6 ether, or even below that, you understand, where our ancestors are trapped. And as you know, or some of you may know, that is what the purpose of the golden children are for. It's not child, it's golden children. You understand? So basically, as when a person dies, for example, the soul, as you would classify as the spiritual soul, the ba'a, you understand? It breaks like a piece of broken glass into many different pieces, or many ka'as, you understand? And as I say, depending on your last thoughts or thinking, they will gravitate to the ether levels that resonate with those last emotions. Hence why you look at some of you may be familiar with Sabian culture, when you look at the balloon ceremony, when somebody transitions or passes away, that is what you're doing there. You're using the balloons to show the different pieces of the soul, and it's supposed to be ascending, understood, to higher states of existence. Do you understand? And actually the morphogenetic field that surrounds the planet, which holds shape information, is like a holding area, or can be a holding area, to allow you to get sufficient strength, you understand, to ascend further. But as I say, the fact of the matter is if you go lower, so down to 6 ether and thing, then, as I say, the pieces of or aspects of us are then trapped there, and as I say, utilized by discarnate entities and others, not of our own ancestry, and they can feed off of those forces. So that the plan called Ray or Reye Hara Achet, you understand, which is like a program which is designed to align, physical and etheric aspects of ourself with our own ancestry. So they should not be sitting, our ancestors or pieces of them should not be sitting in vibrational worlds or vibrational levels not of their own ancestry. So part of the golden children's remit is to be developed with that capability to understand or discern between the different planes of existence, and be able to pull their own ancestry out of these lower states of existence and realign them with 7, 8, or 9 ether force levels, as the planet also is ascending. You understand? So no more etheric battery that our ancestors should be playing. And so it becomes very complicated. You can see when we start even mixing, if you exchange a kiss, you understand, all these different types of things that can take place in a world where, as I say, you are affected by the environment epigenetically. So sounds, things around you, etc. And if you don't know what's going on and you're not informed, then unfortunately others can take advantage of you. Remember the observation of Parnatharu in our Partarak about why we're in this situation, because a lot of weak-minded religious people now want to give the Caucasian a pass for slavery and other atrocities done to our people, and say, well, it was our lack of belief in Jesus, or the fact that we turned away from God, which is why all that happened to us. No, that's not the case. Do you understand? The truth about it is that if you're not aware, or you're not strong enough to defend yourself, then when wolves come, they're going to take advantage of you. So in the context of our divine loving nature meant that we allowed, as say, people in to help them, and they took advantage of us. Do you understand? So, and that nature still with us today. It can be a weakness, it's a strength, but it can also be a weakness when you're around, as I say, wolves. And so if you're a sheep around wolves, then this kind of world tells you where you got to bring out a little bit of wolf in you. You understand? You got to bring out a little bit of wolf. You understand? Black wolf, but a little bit of wolf, in order to deal with them. You understand? So, in that regard, you understand? But you fight fire with water. You understand? Doesn't mean so. Water, can destroy cities the same way fire can destroy cities. You understand? Yeah. So remember that it's not a case of they say fight fire with fire. If you want to neutralize them, then you're going to fight fire with water. Understood? Yeah. So water can kill just the way fire can kill. You understand? But it's inherently talking about the natures of certain individuals. Do you understand? Or certain races. The inherent core nature. So as I say, we're in this situation, as they expressed, going back to what we're saying, we're in this situation not for what we have done, but for rather what we have failed to do. And that failure is, as I say, developing ourselves to a level where we were that strong physically and ethically and unified, in the sense, the true jigsaw, unified as a people, whereby, as I say, we couldn't be got by outside forces, you understand, or couldn't be got by forces that would come amongst us and seek to separate us. Because as soon as we're separated, the division, as I say, feeds the forces that empower them. You understand? So we have always been taught that unity is our strength, but as I say, we get an insight now into what this true jigsaw is looking like. So we explained to you about the ascension pathway in the grand plan, and some of the links, as I say, you see here with the hieroglyphs of the 2 star constellations that we're making reference to. Do you understand? And so, interesting enough, it's a picture tells the story of 1,000 words. You understand? But the reality of the situation is that for us, the symbols are alluding to some degree to what's taking place in the darkness. Do you understand? So I think it's, these actual facts that they're taken from is, fairly old now, but it's giving you, let's say, an indication of where these, of how we drew, these star constellations. You understand? It makes it a very interesting reading. You understand? If we know what we're looking at. Now, for example, we can tell that this is serious, for example, because we see the Tet symbol there. You understand? We see the Tet symbol there. So we know that obviously relates to female, Tet or Tat. You understand? In terms of that symbol there. You understand? Now there's a few things, interestingly, which are sitting on this page. I'm not saying we know them all, but I'm not going to explain everything. But as I say, here we see the kind of symbol there, interesting enough. We see this kind of rope, you understand, habal, you understand, which gives a kind of H sound there. And I think the point being made there is that you see when certain terminology is used, like a famous saying of the master teacher is hold on to the rope. And we see that rope, or the habal there, very evident within the Sahu or Orion Safaf. Now, both of them, as you can see here, have this symbol here, which, interesting enough, in Sabbaic, and I think these are quite old because this is a slightly older script, you understand, which is showing here. But if we were to look at the updated script, this would translate to be a hard, well, in English you would say S, but there's 3 of those types of S's in Sabbaic language. And so attempt to draw this quickly so I don't have to use my pad. So if you excuse my drawing, so I'll Oops. So I'm not using a pen. Okay. And it's roughly that. So yeah. So that is the soh symbol, you understand, which would basically be it's sort of an S, yeah, with an accent above it. You understand? So that would sort of be the symbol that you would see for, yeah, repeated equivalent. So it's a soh sound. Yes, a hard S. Soh. Yeah, hard S. And this is a folded cloth. This is what this represents, a folded cloth. And you can see that both symbols here start with that, yeah, and show the connection. You understand? So both with this hard soh symbol, which, as I say, also when you look at the Sabaic word for sun, you see sawa and you see sawatat, and it's the word for sawa is DNA son, sawatat DNA daughter. Do you understand? So the kind of way in which everything is used, it's not placed there for no reason. You understand? Now, you are aware, or maybe not be aware, but you'll be aware now, that, for example, the one of the reasons for the importance of these two star constellations is because that's where our DNA comes from. So male DNA from the Orion star constellation, and female DNA from the Sirius star constellation. Understand? So, as I say, soh, or the hard, which equivalent would be an S accent. I don't like to say the word S because S is an ES sound. It's a soh sound. Yeah, hard S, for lack of a better word for the letter. So soh sound, and let's say you see the DNA link there, and let's say the interconnection between, let's say, these star constellations and the patterns that they make up as part of the jigsaw that we're talking about of unity. Any questions?
No questions.
There's no questions.
Notice that there's 3 lines again in that letter. So a lot of symbolism in there. I'm sure to be explained in some detail by the incarnated master, Nabab Yaanuwn. So a folded cloth, you understand? And also, as I say, pintail duck is also related to that that hard S sound in terms of its depiction. Do you understand? So DNA linkage in that regard. Now, let's get into what we were going to be speaking about today. So we went through, let's say, this grand plan the last time, and we were going to go back through again the story of Isis and Ra'ye, which I think we've done in a previous class, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Maybe not 3 years ago, maybe. 3 or so years ago. So we're going to go back through this story again so you understand. Yeah, so we've shown you patterns of correlation. Okay, there's as above, so below, so described. And now we're going to introduce something else here as a reminder for those, and maybe new for those who have not heard us teach this before. So, story of Ashtat, or Arashtat, maybe the proper pronunciation now, and Isis. And remember, the foundation of even this society, where they placed a value Yes, if all that we're saying is all rubbish, it's all kind of speculation. It's interesting that certain things, as I say, sound very similar to our ancestors' names, you understand, and things of that nature. So, as I say, you think about accounts and accounting, you've got liabilities on one side, and then what have you got on the other side of the balance sheet? You've got assets and liabilities. So the true value is in the asset, which is none other than Isis or Arashta. You understand? When you think about it phonetically in terms of the sound. Why call it that? You understand? Why assets where the true value is? Yeah, because none of us wouldn't be here if it wasn't by way of a woman. The M other. The other part is what is produced. Yeah, but the origin of it, the M, the Bawam, the owl, the symbol, as it's shown in the Safaf, understand 1,000, 1,000, understand the perfect number, understand, because the 1 and then obviously the 3 zeros is dealing with version there, understand, and obviously in our own context, we go from, isn't it, a reptilian type creature to a grey Mardian, obviously, and then into it's kind of humanoid in the 3rd trimester. Anyway, let's get into the story. So this is Ashtat, and this story can be found in a book called Ancient Egypt and the Pharaohs. Excuse me, it is in also, I think, some AEO scrolls, but most people maybe on the call not members of AEO, so might not be able to get that. So Ancient Egypt and the Pharaohs, if you want this story, it's in there. Also a breakdown about Arashta, you understand? And one of the things in the book which is mentioned, very important, there's many things about the Sirius star constellation still to be explained. So it only gives you, or the Master Teacher only gives us a part of the mysteries there. But as I say, something that we should pay a lot more attention to what's going on in relation to that. Now it says she was jealous of her grandfather, Rayay. Yeah, so Ra, but pronounced Rayay properly. The wisest and most practiced of the gods in the way of magic. With time, he had become old and weakly. Isis watched him, or Rashtat watched him, thinking of ways in which she might learn the secret of his power, for he would never give it up of his own free will. Then she noticed that saliva dribbled from his lip, and so decided on a plan of action. Secretly, she collected some of this liquid and mixed it in her hand with the earth upon which Rayay had walked. From the clay, she fashioned a serpent. Then, using her magic, she transformed it into an arrow. And when her task was completed, she took the arrow and, voicing words of power, she secreted it at a crossroads where she knew Ra would pass the following, should probably say day, as dawn broke. Rayay, accompanied by other gods, walked his familiar road from horizon to horizon, eventually coming to the crossroads and the hidden magical arrow. Sensing the great god's presence, the arrow suddenly sprang to life and plunged its serpent fang deep into his leg. Rayay fell to the ground in pain and agony as the poison spread throughout his body. The other gods gathered around helpless, for it was beyond their understanding that the great and all-powerful Rayay could be so afflicted. So this is another lesson here, a little bit, to say that, according to the story, that basically just because you hold I think we mentioned this before, but just because you hold a powerful title doesn't mean you can't be god at. You can be powerful, but you can still be vulnerable to certain types of attack. You understand? So, as I say, somebody can hold the title prime minister or hold the title president, got the power to, in the case of the president of the US, for example, got the power to potentially end the planet. You understand? If there's concurrence in launching a nuclear missile, for example, or nuclear missiles. So you can be powerful, but you can still be shot or assassinated. Do you understand? So this kind of breaks away that just because you're powerful doesn't mean you can't get sick, or you understand, be shot or injured, etc., etc. You understand? So just think in that context. Yeah. So just keep things having a reality check, not a spookism mindset. So, for it's beyond their understanding that the great and all-powerful Reye could be so afflicted. He was the father of the gods. He had created all things, and they could not comprehend how anything of his own making would harm him. After a time, Reye summoned the strength to beckon one of them to his side. Then, speaking in a barely audible whisper, he told them he feared for his life, adding that he had no idea what power could have caused his distress. He begged that the gods of magic should be summoned to restore him to health. None of these gods knew how to help their god. Whichever way they tried, they could not help Reye. Then came Isis, who immediately went up to Reye's side and whispered into his ear that she could free him from the magic, if only he would reveal his true name to her, thereby giving her the secret of his magical power. We talked about this in the last class, about the big and little names. Initially, Reye tried to trick Isis by giving her titles and listing his achievements and honors rather than his name. He said his name was the creator of the heavens above and the earth below. He said that he was the one who made the waters flow and caused the air to move. He was the Lord of the horizon, of dawn and dusk, father of the gods and master of the Niles, the origin of time. He was Khepre in the morning, Reye at noon, and Atum in the evening. However, Isis retaliated by telling him that he delayed his cure, for without his true name, there was nothing that she can do to help him. Thus, he revealed his name to her. After much thought, Reye agreed under the condition that she would only reveal it to her son, Horus, and that he should likewise keep it to himself and to the end of time. So if you look at this, what this is explaining to you, it's saying that Reye had the secret name. She tricked him into giving his true name, understand, or a secret name. And then she passed it to him, and then she would pass it to her son only under certain conditions, and he was to keep it to the end of all time. So what makes a person a Ha or a Hiru, plural, or a Horus, do you understand, is they are the keeper of what? The secret name. They're the keeper of the secret name. This is what this is explaining to us. Let's continue. Upon giving her a magical formula and the poison began to leave his painful body, soon he was restored to health. Once she learned the secret name of the father Reye, she became the most powerful of all the deities, and she had knowledge of all things. So, as I say, and then we make this point again, an extract from a book. We'll leave it at that. So here, this is the Master teacher explaining his journey in the many different schools that he had walked or studied in learning about the knowledge of this planet in order to prepare the balag or message that would be tailored for us to break the spell, but not only break the spell, realign us, to say, back with the frequency or the spiritual science of Wu-Sabat. And it says here, I stepped onto the white lodge of Freemasonry from the black Egyptian mystery as Tahuti Thoth, called Hermes thrice times three, in a sense. Which is what the Greeks refer to them as. The possessor of the master's key, keeper of the what? Secret word to become a Haru, Horus, the companion of the great Hierophant, I am Hotep. So as we saw from our story, when you become the keeper of the secret, you understand, or the secret word, I should say, or that name, then say you become a Haru, keeper of the secret word. So, and we see that he got that from who? He got that from his mother. Yeah, so the mother passed on the secret word. Yeah. Now it says, a companion of the great Hierophant Imhotep, the scribe of secret doctrine, conferrer of the 720 degrees in the secret number 9, and the guardian of the 9th gate, raising from the 9th chamber the secret, which will give you the power to realign yourselves. I was there which was here when the word let there be light was uttered. I have stood the test of all time and been questioned by scholars and historians of all religions and denominations. I am capable of answering the unanswered and solving the problems of the world. Yet my personal interest is in each and every one of you. So we can see there that our story alludes to a connection that's passed down, obviously from mother in this context to child. Now, here we see question 30, I think it's from My Brother Extraterrestrial, the book, question 30. It says, are you in fact saying Negroes are the ancient Egyptians? Answer, yes, that is an actual fact and is encoded in your 24,000 DNA strands genomes of your genes chromosomes. We implanted it as the demi-deity Horus Hiru, which is Hara. So it's included and is called by you, or will be, Ha1, unique to humanoids. So you see there that this Ha1 gene, Human Accelerated Region 1, is what it stands for, has this interlink which connects us to our ancestors. Yeah, and which is, you see there, is connected to the symbolic story given of Ra'ye and Arashtat, or who they call Isis. You understand? Now, you got to remember, as we explained to you, and you read about the grand plan, remember they had cut off their direct connection and closed that gateway by way of Sirius C. Yes? So the connecting pathway then, you understand, to get back to them or to be able to transform back to them will be then shown or at least left there in the DNA by way of the Ha1 gene. Understood, yeah? So we can see there, shown this many times in this class before, but you can look it up yourself as well. You see that Ha1, understand, which was originally exclusively in the Nagaru, but now has spread to other races through mixing. Yeah, that is part of our connection to our ancestors, you understand? Or our higher etheric ancestors is by way of Ha1, you understand? Ha1 here, let me see it say extended there on the 20th chromosome, do you understand? Yep. And is why human beings have accelerated in intelligence over and above, as I say, the normal animal kingdom. And Ha1 is evidence of genetic programming, do you understand? Which they might not consider to be artificially basically shows, not to say artificially, it shows basically that somebody has engineered this aspect of in human beings, because the presence of Ha1 and the activation of it is what has led to human beings, as I say, accelerating in mental capacity or intelligence, let's say, far beyond what animals are catered for. That's not to say animals don't have intelligence, but however, this Ha1 is a game changer, and as I say, is there by way of, as I say, programming or place there, and to aid our transformation. Now, another diagram taken from My Brother the Extraterrestrial. We can see there, starting here with the sun. I remember we spoke about the genetic shifts. I think last week we spoke a little bit about those genetic shifts, but down this female mitochondrial line, yes, we see that the story that we were reading about, or the secret name or tone, you understand, has been passed down to allow that connectivity, you understand, so that we have a ascension pathway back to what was previously there for those lower life forms who did not want to ascend, clearly, when those amongst them were ready to. They had no need, as I say, for the human body anymore. But they left a pathway for us to get back to them, so to speak. And as I say, we see here that in this mitochondrial female line, that the Ha-1 is then passed onto Ha, who is considered half and half humanoid, half of the deities or the Natharu in this context. Do you understand? So the demi-deity, which is what obviously we are today, both physical and etheric in our makeup. Any questions?
No questions.
Sorry, no questions.
So I think we've shown this before, but it's a good reminder for this kind of introductory bit of the proof. So it says, out spaces within you, Musbatu Sabians, in as much as the rules of space are within you, outer inner space are exactly the same. So we're, again, just to re-emphasize this point, that this correlation shown in this true jigsaw puzzle is shown in the divine design, yes, and this connection as well is shown there by way of this Heart-1 gene, that ascension pathway back to be realigned with our ancestors again. Now we're going to revisit this. I think the first pages of this, we may go through, depends on how much time we've got, go through again in some detail if we've got a bit more time. But it's this first page, excuse me, for us to understand this makeup of the pieces that we're talking about in this true jigsaw puzzle. So obviously coming together, they make a certain picture. So it gives, again, we're stepping into more insight now into what these pieces look like. So Master Secret is number 3, Nabab, Sacred Ash. This is 1, Likum, I Mumra, Najem, Kharadu, Shel, Wunawab. For you, my beloved star children of Wu-Sabat, we all live by Sadatat, rules of natural nature, yet others live by laws. Yeah, so making a very interesting separation there. You understand? We live by rules, understand, but they live by laws. And as we said before, what Master explained is that in order to tie themselves into the vine, they talk about the rule of law. So they have laws which they follow. Understand? And so we have the rules of nature which govern us, or we align ourselves to, as I say, to tie in, let's say, the rule of law. In the sense, I'll keep talking about the rule of law, but they're two different things. Yeah. And so our rules obviously form guidance for us. Let's say their laws, man-made or otherwise, sometimes can be in conflict with the rules of natural nature. In the sense, so for example, they consider it's legal to smoke, even though on the packet it will say, oh well, smoking kills. Yeah, so basically the two things are in conflict with each other, whereas the rules of natural nature, in a sense, are there to maintain and govern existence, yeah, in a self-autonomous way. So, verse number 2, it says, these most blessed rules, these most blessed rules of natural nature are of Kawanan existence, and by which we live, as we just said. 3, the Sadadat, Shalel Kawanan, rules of existence are the rules of being, becoming, and became. Yeah, so the rules of existence, being, becoming, and became. Says the rules of nothingness to somethingness, the sum of things You are a thing. So it's telling us what we are. You are a thing. Mukwan'un, a being. You of is. You are. 4. The rules of things and my beloved of things are exact same because all things or a thing is all existence and existence is all things. It says the rule of 5. Rule of is and are and the things of is are and the purpose is of are of is. You understand? Now, as it says 6, the true and only purpose of is existence as a material thing or shakhas, person, being. 7, material is matter, be it atoms or cells, it is to exist, to occupy, to affect by cause. 10, to fill the fasa, Wu-Sabat, space and time. 11, the existence with shayanat, things. The existence with shayanat, things, which is in fact is to become something in itself. 13, to hawu, create things is the first member or part, the particle, the particle. The second member or part is becoming from being. So what does all that mean? Yes, it can sound confusing if we're not really paying attention to what's going on or have some understanding. So let's break it down. Yeah. So it says the rules of natural nature are of existence. Yeah. So rules of nature are of existence. Yeah. So it's saying where the rules origin is, and it makes a further statement that we are governed or we live by them by obviously our choosing these rules. Understand? They govern the environment that we find ourselves within. Understand? So they are of existence. Yeah, so they are by way of, or that's where their origin is. Doesn't mean that they are existence. Yeah, they are of it. So the rules of existence are the rules of being, becoming, became. So within the existence, you understand, and with this ing we see there at the with the first 2 words, we understand now that basically this is motion. Yeah, this is motion. This is growth. You understand? Motion and growth taking place. Yeah. So movement out of stillness. Yeah, movement out of stillness. It says the rules of nothingness to somethingness. Yeah. So again, another part of journey, but within being, becoming, became. So the rules of nothingness to somethingness, the sum of things, you are a thing. Mokwano, a being. You of is, you are. Understand? So we need to understand a bit of what of is. We need to understand what is as a statement, and we need to know what are is in order for us to get an understanding. But here, then the next one is saying the rules of things and beloved of things are the exact same. Yeah. So let's say it again, the rule of things and beloved of things are the exact same. So we see earlier that we are a thing. Yes. So if we are a thing, then when we look at this next breakdown, this next section, that's talking about us. Yeah. So it says the rules of things and the beloved of things. Remember, we were called in that early verse. If you remember, so we're seeing confirmation that it is talking about us. You can see that the way it opens, it will be referred to as beloved. Yeah, the term mumra here. Yeah, my. Yeah, mumra. And not the character from Thundercats. You can see we tried to repurpose a word with negativity. You understand, a word that had positivity in our language, or has positivity in our language. So mumra, yeah, beloved, yeah, star children of Wu-Sabat. You understand? Yeah, star children. Note that what we're being called here. So yeah, so we're going back now. So the rules of things and my beloved of things are the exact same. Yes. And this is the important bit here, which a lot of people miss, because all things or a thing is what? All existence, and existence is all things. So when we start off the class, we talk about falsehood, and we understand, and we talk about being a part. Understood. But in this context, it's showing you for as it pertains to us as a thing. Yeah, a being who's there from the very origin of things. Part and whole are the same. Yeah, it says what? The rules of things and beloved of things are the exact same. You understand? So we are the rules. Yeah, we are the rules. So again, just making that point, a little step back, we set the standard because we vibrate the highest out of all the different races. So therefore, how we are living, how we are moving, you understand, how we are with each other, yeah, the rules, how we set the rules of in our tribe, in our environment, this is supposed to be the highest that any human being can basically live or obtain because of our level of vibration. No others vibrate as high as we are. So we're supposed to be setting a standard. Yeah. So rules and us are the same thing. And the rules of things, what governs us is the same. Yeah. So how we dictate is how it's going to go. How we behave is what's going to be the best. So we set the standard. And because all things and a things is all existence, and existence is all things. So again, this is telling you, as we expressed earlier, that a thing or all things, you understand, is all. Yeah, so a thing is the whole, and all is the whole, but it can also be part at the same time. And this is how we express it to you, is when you're seeing this correlation, you're seeing this patterning, understood, yeah, we can see how that is taking place. As I say, you donate a whole bit of you as parts, isn't it? Called the sperm. You donate a whole bit of you as part, referred to as the ovum or the egg. Yeah, it's part of you, but it's at the same time, it is all of you at the same time. And here, as we recognize that just a cell, one of our cells can tell the story of exactly who we are. One of our cells. So thing and whole, yeah, can be the same, yeah, in this context. Yeah, it's the same like you take a drop of water out of the ocean. Yes, you may call it a droplet, you understand? But then you put it back, it becomes the ocean again. So in its droplet form, is it not the ocean? Yeah, it's become part because it's been seemingly separated from the whole. Even though it's not really separate, it's still interconnected. You took water out of the ocean by more finite forms of ether. Yeah, so we're never really alone. Remember the secret meaning behind the term alone, even in the religious degrees, where they talk about Allah being alone or Yahweh being alone. Yeah, the secret meaning behind that, remember, it's not alone, it's all one. Alone is all one. Yeah, unity. Yeah. So what is this saying to us now? So the rule of is and are, or the things of is are, the purpose is of are of is. And the true purpose of is existence as material thing or shachas person being. Yeah, so it's a thing to us to get our head around. Yeah, so what is a things and all things, you understand, is existence. So the rule of is and are. What is are? Saying to say, well, things exist. Do you understand? Now, what is of? Well, of is purpose. You understand? I'm going to prove that in a second, at least within our doctrine. Yeah, so of is purpose. You understand? So you could read it to say, well, the rule of is and are, yeah, the things, yes, the things, you understand? The purpose of things, or a thing or all things, is to exist. Yes? So the purpose of, yeah, the purpose of a thing or all things, yeah, so with this from this part, the purpose of a thing or all things, sorry, excuse me, the things, a thing or all things, the purpose is to exist. Yes? And the purpose is existence. And the purpose of existence, excuse me, and existence is the purpose of a or all things. Let me say that again, because it's sounding like gobbledygook. Yeah? A things or all things, the purpose, yes, is existence, yeah, which is the R. And then it's saying, well, existence is the purpose of a or all things. Yeah, so it reverses it around. Yeah, so what we're reading here. Yeah, so if that's clear, thumbs up or put something in the chat. Yeah, so we can step on, because it's quite a tricky thing to get our head around. Yeah, so a things or all things. Yeah, this is what it's talking about. Is the is. Yeah, but are is saying existence. Yeah, because they exist. Yeah, you exist. Yeah, which is the purpose of the being, becoming, became. Yeah, you are. Understood? As we say, all does, I do. Well, the all does bit is, you understand? Because that's the absolute of it. You understand? That's the absolute. That's the stillness in that regard. The do bit is the motion within the stillness. Because if something is omni or all, yes, then movement is within it, but all doesn't move. Within all is movement. But the whole doesn't move. Things move within it. You understand? So there's a separation. But we represent or are part of all, and therefore, by being part, we are all, you understand? We merge back in as whole. Yeah, so when the Master Teacher talks about us being supreme beings, yeah, you understand it's not a term of us giving ourselves an ego boost. It's relating to the fact that we are from the very origin of what growth is, you understand? Which eventually leads to physical life, you understand? Movement, motion, that's us. We were there from the very beginning, very origin. We are the God or supreme beings that their religions purport to be speaking about. That's who we are. And if it wasn't for us, nobody else would be. That's what we represent, existence. So let's go back over that again one more final time. So the rule of is, yeah, is things, yeah? All things are a thing. And are, understand, is obviously saying to say, or to say that state that things exist. You understand? So the things of is of are. So it's saying that where they come from, you understand? Or it's how it's been produced. But it's saying the purpose of a thing or all things, you understand? Sorry, a thing or all things, let's say it right, because the word purpose is there, so we have to read it. But if we just put that bit in brackets just for a second and understand that is purpose, in a sense, you're saying that the purpose, let's go. So, of his purpose, excuse me. of its purpose. What we're saying here is that a thing or all things, the purpose is to exist. Yes? And then the purpose of existence or existence, its purpose is, the purpose of it is all things. Understand? So I'm saying we're rehashing it, making it hashy, but you get the point what I'm saying, yeah? A things or all things, its purpose is to exist, and the purpose of existence, yeah, or existence is the purpose of all things. I keep saying the word purpose before are. But here, a thing or all things, the purpose is to exist, and existence is the purpose of a or all things. Yeah, that's it in its simple form, if you catch it there. Now let's prove that with the doctrine to know that what we've sort of interpreted there is correct. Now, next part here, which we've separated out of the thing, we're going to jump to something called natural ether energy, just to confirm. It says the true and only purpose of is, so A and all things, is existence as material thing, shekhas, person, or being. You understand? So we understand, for example, that in order for things to exist, what do we need? Space, yes. We need matter, you understand? And we need time. Three things, yeah, the three things within existence, inseparable: space, matter, and time. So what it is to exist. Yeah, so exist. But then when a thing is then classified, yeah, as something, then obviously, or a thing or something, then it's going to be R. Now, and it gives material, thing, you understand, and shakas, personal being. And its growth purpose is those three stages, isn't it? Again, the number 3 there: being, becoming, became. Understand? Yeah, as it's going through this process of growth. Material is matter, be it atoms or cells, it is to exist. You understand? Yeah, being, becoming, became. Yeah, this growth within existence. And which we didn't read this part, but since it splits down into 3 members, we read the first 2 parts. So first member, to grow things, particles. And this is because, which we'll probably come on to, I don't know if we're going to get to this class, but in the next one maybe, if we get through in time, is because one of the definitions of chaos, yes, is when particles are sitting there as things, yeah, aimlessly. So they exist, but no purpose has been applied. Yeah, so particles are sitting there aimlessly, and it takes seasons, or which we're going to read about in a bit, that mental power being applied to then focus these parts or particles into order. Yeah, by giving them purpose. But whilst they do not have purpose, that is another definition of chaos. And when they exist, but they don't have purpose. Second member here talks about becoming from being. Yeah, what does it mean? Again, repeating ourselves. Rules of existence are what? Yeah, being, becoming, became. Yeah, the third member is or has become from being, becoming, became. That's the third member. So all of it's talking about things, the origin of things, yeah, and how they grow, yeah, and become other things. But in the context of us, the link is still there to all the way back to the original. And so the very pieces that make up the true jigsaw puzzle, do you understand? Yep. Listen carefully. The puzzle, the true picture of the puzzle is in the part and it's also within the pieces how they're put together. Yeah. So because if the true thing or the true being should reflect all, you understand? And when everything is brought together, it should also reflect all, because it is all. When it's all brought together or patterned together, it should reflect the same true jigsaw puzzle. You understand? The separation of it is the illusion, because everything is interconnected. You understand? So we use terms like or put in a definite article denotes separation. Yeah, or the starting of growth. Yeah, the starting of growth, or what we would distinguish it as growth from the whole. Now, when we go to natural ether energy, just to prove within the doctrine that of means purpose, essentially here, prime mover, matter and space, we've matter, space, powers. Now, 85 from natural ether energy, so steps into a slightly different book now. Saying the nature of is the rule. Of is what? Is the purpose. And the purpose of Fatiral Nashashat, natural ether energies, are to be the prime mover in nature towards creation or disintegration, to be the magnetism or magicism in organization and creation by fatar nature, and to be the main organizing or controlling elements in the base or source of creation, and that source is the damagh, brain. So that bit, one of the definitions is to move things into order, because we understand that the smallest particles within existence, in a sense, are brain etheric seeds. In a sense, some refer to them as nuts, yeah, N-U-U-T or N-O-O-T-S. Do you understand? Yeah, nuts. Smallest things within existence, yeah, brain etheric seeds, yeah, that obviously can be brought into order, yeah, in order to start the transition from being, yeah, which they are, you understand, and then becoming and became, yeah, to having an ing, so that motion or growth process is starting, but as I say, being placed into some form of order, understood, not some form, but the form of order, by way of, in this explanation here, and we get more details, we get more scientific with it, in terms of these natural ether energies. Yeah, so, excuse me, being responsible, as I say, for ordering it, or being the mechanism, I should say, by a way in which things are ordered, understood, but mind power is the controlling force here, or mental power is the controlling force here. Yeah, so I'm not going to go into these too much because it takes us away from where we need to do, but you see a third triad principle here. Yeah, natural make up their ether and energy, you understand? And this true thing we're talking about here is reasoning. Yeah, and us obviously as the etheric beings utilizing natural ether energies, you understand? And you understand, to facilitate or ensure that things are then moved through this process, you understand, of being, becoming, and became, which shaping of his existence. And creation, as we know, means growth, you understand? In this context, disintegration obviously would mean change in form, you understand, or system. So growth into form and system, and as creation we know means in Wu-Sabat, disintegration or destruction, you understand, change in form or system. Yeah. Any questions?
No questions.
So, interesting enough, remember this word unity, tying back into the true jigsaw, Yeah, in same book, Naturally for Energy, we've jumped about a little bit, but he's seeing here is what, which is another thing for is, excuse me, in relation to what we're talking about here in terms of what is the cause that causes cause and effect. You understand? So things are sitting there aimlessly, do you understand? And now something's driving them to get into order, to become something eventually, from nothingness to become something, you understand? And eventually manifest themselves materially. 347, the rule of is, the nature of is, and the purpose of is, and the purpose of natural ether is the spark of natural life and mind energy. Yeah, so that confirms what we're just talking about there. And what does it say? Yeah, it says, you are the reason all exist. 349, you are the purpose all exist. 350, you are the original being. 351, you are the supreme being. So it ties back in to our understanding of is of are and are of is. Yeah, which we hashed explaining a bit, but you get the drift. Yeah, about what the are is. Now the all, yeah, is, it can be referred to all people, isn't it? It can be referred to all things. All things. Think about what we're saying here. All things. You are the purpose all, because who are the beings having the mind, you understand, or the mental energy that is driving forward, you understand, the reason why these things exist or grow, you understand, within existence, and then become at a certain point when they are in something that become definable, becomes detectable within space, matter, and time, and then become known that they exist. Understand? So in their Bible, interesting enough, their God gave their Adam the power to name things. Understood? Yes? To name things. And so, therefore, by naming something, you make it known to exist. Do you understand? Yeah, it's that first point. This first point of being, as they say in their story, had the ability to bring things into existence. But that was the mythology of their story. Now we understand the power of who the Nagaru is, the Negroid, understand, the black man and woman, who they are as etheric beings. Yeah, you see, the power is to bring things into existence as things, as all. Yeah, and why the significance of what we're being given is, you understand, when you read back again the affirmation, you see what it's really saying. Yeah, who the true jigsaw is. You are the true jigsaw. Or we are the true jigsaw. As part and whole. But mental separation, yeah, or the idea that we are divided, because in our minds, that's how we think of ourselves as individuals. Yeah. So in mind, we are divided from all. In our minds, we're divided from the all. We're divided from the whole. We haven't recognized or seen ourselves as a part. Even though we say it, do we truly accept that in our minds? Do we live it? Yeah, do we live for, by one another physically? Which, listen, reminds us or puts us back in the mind of Ray that we are part. Yeah, because Ray had all the connection, do you understand? And he passed it on to the female or sacred feminine, you understand? Who then gave it to her son. So the connection was obviously established in terms of who they are, is according to the story. Understand? And beings that existed at that point, knowing that their children would come after, left a pathway where they would say, for those who are willing to put the work in, for those who are willing to discipline themselves, for those who are willing to learn, you understand? For those who are willing to be informed, yeah, can be transformed, yeah, to become part again, to be reaccepted, isn't it, back into the Etheric family. If not, quarantined and cut off. And stay cut off, if that's what people choose to do. So what was important with the coming of the master teacher as the culmination of all the teachers that came before is that you would have a true choice once again. Yeah, you have a true choice to connect back with your ancestors. Do you understand? Not a fake set of choices presented in this society that had no connection, no correlation to the Nathar or to our etheric entities as Parazaku or the Riskians, having no relevance. Yeah, it would keep us in a loop or a circle, only to be at the point of death. We are undeveloped potential, and then leave ourselves there as vulnerable, as I say, to attack by entities who want to feed off of the only true battery in existence, which is us, the true energy source within existence, which is us. Yeah, so it's not about us sitting around. We ain't really got time to be sitting around arguing with other religions. We do it because we have to get our people out of the spell. You understand? But time and time again, over and over again, when a black man in this case brings something for us to consume, we don't want to accept the leadership. Yeah, we don't want to accept or jump on that boat. Yeah, because it's leadership. Yeah, we don't want to jump on that boat and jump on the path that what it's taking us back to, which is reconnecting back with our ancestors. And we don't bow down in prayer anymore. Don't bow down. That was the stage. We don't bow down in prayer. We don't pray to our ancestors. We have a conversation. Yeah, yes, you should be respectful, clean up yourself, and you understand? Make the environment conducive, because you don't want adverse energies to interfere with the conversation or the connection or exploit it. You understand? Because obviously we're in a ignorant state. But we're having a conversation with our ancestors. We're asking for help. We're not worshipping. Why would we worship? We're a part. We have those capabilities, same, untapped, undeveloped. Of course there's respect. Of course there's seen, but not in the sense of bow down in that sense, because you're the same. You're just in a state of ignorance. But unless we tap into that power will be undeveloped potential and as leave us in a state, as I say, of being vulnerable to be attacked by our enemies. Whether you think they're enemies or not, whether you treat them as enemies or not, that's what they perceive you as. Something to be exploited, something to be used, something to be fed upon. That's why they want to keep us in this state of ignorance, and they don't want ones like the master teacher coming along and opening up the real or true doorway, yeah, to your transformation. So, excuse me. Let's understand this a little better. We will. Let's go through this. Actually, let's go through this particular scroll and take the time, because it can appear confusing otherwise. Yeah. Now, so if you've heard it before, I'm going over it again. We'll just go over it again to help you understand it. So the third member or part is triad and is part of existence. Is or has become from being, becoming, became. You understand? So that's the third part. It's the end of the journey. From the what? 16. From the prime harakur, mover of things, which we just read about their natural ether energy, prime mover. Yeah, so again, these are terminologies that we have to start mastering in Wu-Sabat. It's not about we've beyond, blackity black. You understand? In terms of that cultural understanding. Now we have to master things within our doctrine to gain understanding of what's taking place within our doctrine. What is the master teacher conveying? We must master what the master is teaching in order to grow and elevate. You understand? Not be asking questions to sound heavy. Ask questions to when he's out or when he's back amongst us again. You understand? And the work rate that's been put in incarceration for the last 20 years, are we up to speed? Have we taken every book apart? Have we mastered everything? Are we knowledgeable? Or him sitting down for 20 years, is he still outworking us mentally? When we've had freedom, understand, in terms of the faculties to be able to go and learn and master these things, he's been writing his doctrine with two hands tied behind his back, understand, but and tortured, etc., but still as that purpose that he was programmed to do, get this information out to us as a people. Now, are we going to be ready, you understand, to go to that next level of growth, having mastered what's been put out since 63, but certainly since he's been incarcerated? If you look at the amount of doctrine that's been put out since that point, I mean, it's simply incredible. And so if you're going to master and understand it, or whether it's attending these classes or other classes, master the doctrine. Master what the master teacher is given. Understand? Not just use it as a form of edutainment. Understand? Be clear. Master it. This is you. Yeah, this is you learning about you and mastering you. Understand? So that we can become a better us. 17. The Sakham power in all things together with Wakat or Wagat in this say. Wu-Sabat, time and space to be. 18. Age exists inside of time. 19. Time is still, as space is still. So in fact, 20. So in fact, all is still. All is still. 21. All has no opposite. 22. For where would it exist? But as a part of all existence, who is Pa'ut, all expanding. 23. And as a thing in all, you expand, grow, age, and procreated. 24. Tarak, movement within stillness. You see? So we are that movement. Yeah? We are the movement and the mover. And that which is moved. 25. So you as Kabat center are all persons, places, and things. Yeah, nouns. 26. Until you are moved off your center by the effects of growth. 27. So matter or mother has all 8 telomeres on the tips of her chromosomes. So we understand this. That's why women live longer than men. You understand? These things at the tip, telomeres. And they reduce down every time our cells obviously decline in a cyclical fashion. Do you understand? So there's a certain amount of times that but this is what obviously we're calling growth. Yes, so the body is continuously regenerating itself, but it will only do so for a certain amount of times, and that the number of times is determined by the telomeres, or the length of the telomeres. So as the telomeres, every time we rejuvenate or we regenerate, understand, i.e. go through life, death cycles, and things are eliminated from the body when they're of no use, and new cells are born, for example, then the telomeres get shorter. 29. Her 2 X chromosomes, to be exact, her 23 pairs per cell, and of each of these generate from the junction of her 2 chromosomes linked to her mother's mitochondrial DNA to her genes. 28. 8 seats of telomeres and her helix to all the Maillet fluids in and out of all the glands. Yeah, remember that. Remember the rope that we see there in hieroglyph pertaining to Sahat, the star constellation, and we know that that same helix is sitting there, as I say, representing that connection, you understand, to that original tone. Do you understand? Yeah, so that helix form, we see it there in the Sirius star constellation as well, in its motion and movement. In the two now, the three that became two, you see the helix in there, again, showing that connection. 29, the keepers of time growth, Taldad birth in 9 months, and the keeper of time as age forward and backwards. You understand? So time is, but we judge things by way of the time. You understand? 30, and the F Avir, you understand? Or you see the F ether. Yeah, so Avir, yeah, the A is interchangeable with the other vowels. You understand? So it could be a U there, I, E, you understand, etc. O there, you understand, and it still mean the same thing. So F ether, you understand, or F Avir, father has 7 telomeres on tips of his chromosome. 31, his XY chromosomes, 23 pairs per cell, each generate from the junction of his 2 XY chromosomes linked to his DNA, which is linked to his mother's mitochondrial DNA to his genes. XY, 7 seats of telomeres to his helix to all fluids in and out of all the glands. Understand? 32. This is why men die first, because he has 1 less telomere. However, both Ayashu males and Ashashu females, having been maimed, are defected from their original state of existence. You understand? So here we see that, as I say, why that transformation is necessary, because, as I say, certain of our powers have been limited, yeah, due to, as I say, in certain instances, purposely done, but in other instances, because of mixing in with lower life forms. Yeah, has depleted and maimed our powers. Yeah, so certain aspects of our brain are not active in the way in which they're supposed to be. Hence why we are considered to be the mummy. Yeah, because mentally dead. Yeah, and our brain or mind power, our connection to the mental, has to be restored back again. Understand? By way of restoration of our soul. Our connection to it again, true thinking in our mindset. Yeah, and so we were given a master teacher, yeah, the Nabab Akhtar, and the sacrifices made by Dr. Malachi KZ York, understood, to have an example, in a sense, to teach, in a sense, and guide and perfect the message that was needed to aid our transformation. But oftentimes the focus is on the man, not on you understand, the doctrine that's been put out here. Yeah, because they want a thing to judge you by, bring you down with. Yeah, and not interested in what you're saying or what the doctrine is saying, but bring you down by your behavior. If you act in this society less than anything, what they consider to be perfect, it's an excuse to tear the whole thing down. You understand? Whereas perfection and imperfection are part of nature. You understand? And so they want us to judge our leaders, in a sense, to absolute perfection, in a sense, by their interpretation of what God is or isn't. You understand? I mean, if you do 51% good, are you good? Or if you do 49%, if you do 51% evil, then you must be evil. If you do 49%, then what? If you live your life mostly positive and you make 1 mistake or 2 mistakes, depending on maybe the gravity of that, are you judged wholly by that whole mistake? You understand? And then what's the mistake you're being judged by? You understand? Because the rules that they've set for themselves, are they real rules? Because are their laws real rules? So if you park your car and you get parking tickets, and this may be more applied to the States in this country, and they put you in prison because you haven't paid parking tickets, does that make you an evil person? It's parking tickets. How does that relate to natural nature's rules? So you can be hit by laws that makes you because now if you're a felon now, yeah, you're considered lower than somebody who's not a felon, or you're judged more adversely than somebody who's not a felon for parking tickets. Yeah, you should go to prison for. Yeah, I don't know. Debt may be something else, another thing. There are these things real in natural rules as opposed to man-made rules. Yeah, so people can judge. You end up judging by his laws, when in reality, sometimes it means that we're judging by the extremes of a thing and not by sometimes the subtleties in how these things are applied. In the sense, when you judge it against nature's rules, as we said before, in the sense we would cast aspersions on somebody selling crack in the community, for example, maybe rightly so, but not, for example, the grocer who is selling sweets and alcohol, pornography magazines. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, or the big supermarket. You wouldn't see them as the same as the crack dealer, even though they sell loads of alcohol. They sell cigarettes. You understand? They sell all things, manner of things that can kill human beings over time, or even instantaneously if they take too much of it. But yet we don't see that as the same as the crack dealer. So something in our mind, as I say, has taken us away from the reality of natural rules. You understand? So they're quick to use the sex force to bring down our leaders. But what does nature have to say about that? And if somebody gets raped, that will be unnatural. Nature's rules will kick in. Do you understand? But if you don't like me because I've got 2 wives, I mean, and everybody's agreed to the situation, no one's been tricked or coerced or whatever. Are you evil because you got 2 wives now? Is that worthy to bring down an organization? Yeah, which is what happened to the Nation of Islam. You understand? Yeah, if you think about it with Malcolm X, he had the disagreement because Honorable Elijah Muhammad had 4 wives. So is that worthy to bring down a nation for? In the context of, the bigger things that needed to be achieved and what they were doing, living self-sufficient for by one another. Their problem obviously was Islam. We understand that. But it was a pathway to them becoming something. They never got there really to what they were supposed to be because they have a disagreement with the way people are behaving or people's sex lives. Well, I'm saying if nothing's unnatural is taking place or people not being exploited, and then it's better to stay out of people's bedrooms in that regard. So as long as people are being taken care of, as long as all et cetera, it is no abuse, whatever the case may be, then is that a thing to judge somebody down by? Just a thought. Because in this society, that's what they weaponize sex against our people. You understand? They weaponize it. Whether it's, I'm sure the LGBTQ community jumping up and down, but when you see in a movie where they've cast where the black person is cast in the movie in a prominent role, whatever, then you find out they've got a boyfriend, they're male, or they got a girlfriend, not because there's something wrong with them having a boyfriend or girlfriend. It's because in that movie they've weaponized it in that way. Yeah, because they didn't do that with their actors. Harrison Ford has never wore a dress in a movie, as far as I'm aware. He never wore no dress. Yeah, so the image of Harrison Ford as Han Solo, image of Harrison Ford as in many different roles where he's played the guy, then he ain't put on no dress. Yeah, But how many of our male actors have had to put on dresses in movies? Then they want you to play, then to be accepted as an action hero or whatever later down the line. Yeah, but they can always throw on that movie where you was in a dress or whatever, you were kissing a man or whatever the case may be, because not by what we're saying, but by their rules, they consider that to be feminine. Yeah, and they separated out their iconic heroes, whatever they were doing behind closed doors. They separated out their iconic heroes to not have that ambiguity many times. Yeah, they kept the masculine ones masculine. They kept, the ones who wanted to play whatever, variety of different roles. They're not the iconic necessarily superheroes that they did, superheroes, but the iconic heroes that they display on the screen. So it's one rule for the way they want to show their things, but when it's us now, yeah, that black man or woman's going to be, you can be a superhero, but you're going to be, you're not the same superhero as what they show. You understand? Remember, this is what I said. I think Will Smith played a superhero one time. He had a drinking problem. He was a drinking problem. So this is what I'm saying to you. Yeah, and even I think in one of the movies is the last Marvel one that showed. I think it's called the Eternals. They blame the black guy for slavery in the movie. Yeah, it was his fault for slavery. Here we go, watch the movie. And he was gay in the movie. So there's not that many superheroes that they show as thing, but he had a Hispanic boyfriend in the movie. You understand? And they blamed him for slavery. Yeah, and many of the things why man and all the wars that have taken place, he got the blame. He got the blame for all of those in the movie. Yeah, so even when they try and say, okay, we've cast this guy in a positive, they find a way to make the guy the source of hate or pain or whatever. So in those contexts, speak against it may seem like you're anti. No, it's not anti. It's because the way they've weaponized sex in these contexts. Understood? Yeah, and this is what you have to kind of watch for, but then look at what, as I say, is being expressed. Yeah, and in natural rules, find out where the real or true judgment is about what not to do and what to do, according to our rules, not according to laws. And it's what we dictate amongst ourselves, understood, as you understand, is also the rules. Yeah, so we put things in place not because, as I say, one book at one time, the Bible or Quran said don't do this or don't do that. No, and not have any understanding. Put rules in place, understood, to do what? To govern the unity. Yeah, because separation causes chaos. And we are people of order. So to keep things in order, we need unity. Yeah, so that's why you may put a rule in, don't sleep with another man's wife, because the nature of human beings is they kill each other. It's going to cause division, weaken our powers, makes us what? Vulnerable to other forces feeding off us or taking over. So in order to keep the unity, this is where the discipline is necessary. Understanding our nature, understanding who we are, and what rules should be applied to us, and what is irrelevant to us. And getting caught up in his man-made laws. As I say, how can a human being go to prison for parking tickets on roads that all of us paid our taxes for to build and create, and in many instances are already long paid for? Yeah, hundreds and hundreds of times over. But they put you in prison for parking tickets. It's a proof of fault. So, where are we at now? What time we got then? Okay. All right, another 15 or so minutes left. So, let's continue. So, any questions? Any questions? Sorry.
There are no questions.
No questions.
Okay, so 33 says you've lost all your power, so you have all you all lost your power. So let's read that again. 33. You all have lost the power to shapeshift completely and renew your cells by way of your mafhuzat, liquid gold, inside to activate your telomeres at the tip of each chromosome to in fact be born again. 34. As muachahu, Etherians, etheric beings, exist as a part of Pa Pa'ut, the all expanding. So you see the road there that we are supposed to, what we are supposed to be. And for lack of a better word, where, which is here, in terms of the where we are supposed to be, in terms of the origin, our positioning of where we're seeking to get back to be a part of our etheric ancestry, if that's the pathway that you choose for yourself, you understand, ultimately. As a part of all, as a part of those who are governing and controlling how growth works within existence. This is who we are. Yeah, and sometimes it's difficult for us to grasp that because the way television and other things and cinema have made things so fantastical of what we're supposed to be seeing in this regard. But we also understand from what's been expressed to us in those actual facts, you're not getting a sniff of those higher realms until one has proven himself not only sincere in the sand, but not to be a conduit for lower entities to get in and pollute those higher realms. Not that you become a gateway for them to come through you into those higher and poison those higher realms. So it's only right that the pathway, the ascension pathway, is difficult. It's trying and testing. You understand? So no frauds can get in there and mash up the unity, which is what we've seen in many different organizations, whether they're being influenced by COINTELPRO. Yeah, they got something on you, so we're going to use you to tear down your people. You understand? Whether people have been in housed or walk-ins or whatever, because of they see positivity around, they see growth around, and therefore can't take it. Something inside them can't take it and want to tear it down. They're always there. When positivity exists or order exists, chaos is always sniffing around to find some place or opening to assert itself. Now, what the master teacher is obviously doing for us is teaching us about the prize, teaching us about what's there at the end. You understand? But it's going to be by way of the choices that we make for ourselves. I have a self-improvement, or we're content with self-destruction. Most people will say, well, we're not interested in self-destruction. But our choices, not necessarily our intentions, but our choices that we make may tell a different story, to what we would like or think we like to do. We say we detest the ways of this world, but maybe our actions say differently. Yeah, and maybe that's not 100% our fault, because we've not been exposed enough to our way of life to some degree that we can see what truly is good or bad for us, or negative versus positive for us. You understand? Because of what's in our genetics and genes and the very influencing factors that may cause us to make poor choices within the environments that we find ourselves in. You understand? But in order for there to be change, you understand, we have to change our conditions. One of the things about changing conditions in this context is creating the conditions that are more conducive to produce, as I say, the pathway to us becoming etheric beings once again. And part of that, obviously, we understand is getting our master teacher out and free, but also us, as I say, making sacrifices now as each as individuals to clean up our own self, you understand, and become self-aware so that the whole becomes much greater. So, 34. As Muachachu Etherians, etheric beings exist as a part of Pa Pa'ut, all expanding. 35. Remember, each of you has Tasu Chamanu, 9 Ogdoads, 36, which includes Rayay Atum Nun as the 9th. They're talking about Ogdoads dealing with 8, understand? But the hidden name or secret name, as it was expressed in the Black Book, page 34, verse 7, you see on the screen there. Rayay Atum Nun. Excuse me. It's Rayay, the sun. Atum, first point. Nun. Zan, the well, they call it ocean or the waters, but it's talking about, again, those things within existence. You understand? Dark matter, dark material. You understand? Where nothingness exists on its journey into somethingness or some things, and become indetectable in space and time, or visible at least in terms of its material manifestation. So nun tat nun, hetat he, ketat kek, and amuntat amun. Shifts, genetic shifts, represent genetic shifts within our species. Yeah, it talks about 9 principles of Kawanan existence are 1, Hu, the oversoul; 2, Achach, ether; 3, Ba'ah, soul; 4, Ka'ah, the spirit; 5, Habeti, the plasmatic you; 7, Ta'ah, Tef, Al, the emotional you; 8, Saham, spark of powers; and 9, Lamasat, senses. Understand? So the spark of powers. It was a scientific article, interesting enough, about number 8. I mean, probably look it up on YouTube. Maybe the next time or next week, reminds me, I'll show it. But it shows that spark of powers there in the sperm. I think it was when it connecting with the egg. It shows it lighting up. So you see that spark of electrical power, do you understand, in the actual sperm itself. Again, proving things that, but a form of proof, let's say, that these principles that you've been learned about in these books, as I say, are being confirmed every day by, scientific progress within the West or around the world, or certainly modern world. 38. All of these brought into being between 2 points of B and Bin. 1, Taldad, birth, and 2, Mawat, death. Yeah. 39. Time is as of age, movement. You understand? So A things, all things, as and of purpose. Do you understand? So I say time can be measured time is there, or is, I should say, but time is not this or that. You measure things by way of the time, and time can be within the context of what is provided by time. It can be measured in certain ways. So, for example, we, as I say, measure because we're rotating around a certain planetary body. But before that solar system existed, what was time then? Yeah, what was time? So there will be different ways in which time is measured. Because you have movement now within time, you understand, and growth within time. Now you can say, okay, well, this thing had a starting point and an ending point by way of time. Understand? Not because it is time. Yeah, so just making that separation of what time is. Understand? Because as we have movement, as we have growth, understood, and we have creation, and we have disintegration or destruction of things in certain instances, you understand, change, then by way of those things, time is there. Yeah. And as I say, when it's reversed, the word itself is reversed we get the word emit. Understand? So again, it's again alluding to growth, motion out of stillness, understand? Which is why, as I say, those three things needed for existence: space, matter, and time. Understand? And the purpose of obviously matter is to occupy the space. You understand? And by way of it growing, we measure that by way of time. Now, so again, we've read this before, but we'll get into it again, just so we are aware of a couple of things that are on this page here. Now, 40, you have to have your powers restored for your Taghyar, transformation of eternal youth. 41, and you have been poisoned, your being inside out by your bodily intakes. 42, you have deadened your Kahen Mafkhuzat, divine liquid gold. 43, male or female, this must be restored for you to live in Masbat, Sirius, Sa'ahat, Orion, or Marzak, Rizq. This is what we've been talking about, right? This transformation, yeah? So, liquid gold, as we know, monatomic elements, understand? Yeah, as we're going to read about in a bit. So 44, you need your Nabab gold restored. 45, so that baraffery gland that used to be in the hippocampus area of our brain, understand, is used to secrete liquid gold into our bloodstream. Understand? As I say, make the DNA strands 10,000 times more potent. And so what they're calling superhuman, that would have been our natural abilities. You understand? Inherited from our Atharu. 44, you need your Nabab gold restored. 45, yeah, so when even in the Bible, when they're talking about in that land is good gold, you have to understand what are they talking about? Understood? Are they talking about gold or talking about people? Food for thought, literally. 45, Nabab gold as sacred ash and gold dust is called by many names. Sacred ash, alchemical, conical cakes, metallic bread, monatomic gold, white powder of gold, high spin gold, philosopher's stone, exotic matter, fruit of the true of life, the electric versus powder, red stone, celestial ruby, me stone, ormes, orbitally rearranged monatomic elements, food of the gods, holy semen, enbu, good gold, ampu, elixir of life, holy blood, sacred sperm, mananshel natharu, gold dust, yeah, that, yeah, liquid gold. 46, known by many titles by those who know of it and its powers. 47, the gold from above, so do not be deceived by Muziafu, fakers. 48, when this one universe was grown from a Kadir Makwanat multiverse, you had two kinds of atoms, hydrogen or H1, which combined its atoms by way of fusion to become helium He2 on this side of existence. 49, the helium He could not combine to birth any new kinds of atoms. 50, this was a problem, being hydrogen H only has one proton and helium He has two protons. 51, so both being feminine could not combine or fuse to birth a new kind of atom of 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, as in carbon C6. How is this solved? So 1, hydrogen H1, 2, helium He2, 3, lithium Li3, beryllium 4, Be4, 5, boron B5, C6, carbon 6. 52, and to get gold, which is AU, atomic number 79, it takes a lot of breeding. 53, and being that H1 and He are both feminine, they could not combine what was needed to birth masculine out of feminine. Yeah, so two alike, remember, is alike repels opposites instead of attracted to each other. 54. The same first two atoms, H1 and He, resisted each other because they were the same charge, generating the same genetic charges. 55. So it needed a reason to cuddle or to hug. 56. And that would be temperature, such as heat. 57. Hotness, which is a magnet or magnetic tajdab, attraction. 58. It needed a lot of heat to make these two hug. 59. 9 million degrees to be exact. 60. The two, H1 and He, had to come together to birth Paraye, the sun of this solar system. 61. A fiery fusion. So it needed outside forces, as did other Najamat stars, which are suns before this sun was which are suns born before this sun. 62. They had already protons collided with such Kawat force, had no choice but to fuse. As the three sons of Ilion, 1 Utu, 2 Apsu, 3 Shamash, born long before this sun. So again, you're reading about this correlation and this pattern of things replicating itself from the original sources of things. You understand? And as I say, 19th galaxy, 18th, you're seeing this replicated in smaller ways, or sizes from the original that you have a link to, or origin from. 64, it was fusion, now called Janus sex. 65, inside the sun's Raham womb or furnace, the protons, just as the egg of an ovum, turned into heavier and heavier atoms, just as the matar semen and ovum creates a fetus. 66, so by attraction of heat, hydrogen atoms combine to become helium He in cells called a daughter cell from itself. 67, and those helium He atoms combine to become carbon, particles of creation, Shayanat, of particles of creation of Shayanat things. 68, carbon C6 is a masculine atom. 69, it is carbon C6 and oxygen O8, or atomic number 8, and nitrogen N7 and silicon Si14, and fusion that created all other atomic atoms of elements. 70, C6 of carbon protons, nitrogen N7, 7 protons, oxygen O8, 8 protons, are all cooked all the way to iron Fe26. Protons and atoms stop at that point when it reaches iron. 71. Matter dies at that point. You can't fuse it, and there is no fission with iron Fe6. 72. Once a sun or star has converted all of its atoms into iron, it is just that, a male that cannot produce a Karad child on its own. So again, the seeing here, remember, interesting enough, you understand? Interesting enough. In fact, no, I'm going to leave that point. Continue. Yeah, 73. He is iron hardness. You can't fuse him. He is as a star, as the Maman penis is raised by blood, and blood is mostly iron. 74. At his birth, all fuel is gone, and if he tries just as a star, he will collapse. 75. And in that collapse, the star reaches stratospheric temperature and blows its guts. As once he is as hard as he can become, he then ejaculates his semen or blows his guts to sperm. 76. His testes collapses, being drained, and his iron-hard penis collapses just as the star does. 76. The collapsing star is then called a supernova, and the explosion or ejaculation is so powerful and cataclysmic that you can see it across the universe. 78. Supernovas outshine whole galaxies because of the atoms with 30 protons, 40 protons, 50 protons, or 60 protons, as nature prefers even numbers for stability, just as all women used to birth twins, while she has 2 mammary glands or breasts. 76. Yet every so often the star will forge an odd number, or 1 child. 80. The first of these, a real rarity, is Nabab gold, AU 79, atomic number, a masculine element. 81. This 1 child, Hara or Hara 1, Har1 Horus, the unique chromosome of the humans, 24,000 chromosomes, born without a sister for mitochondrial DNA, was in fact Waha, unique. 82. The only begotten son, the golden child, having in him mafkhuzat, liquid gold, to pass on to Hatat Hara or Hatha or Hathor. 83. I do hope you all, my beloved children, are able to understand this divine ontology and its relation to you, my Munbatu, golden children, Nuapu or Musbatu, Nuapians of Nabat, from each of you, for each of you are a gold atom, as each actual single gold atom in this universe is from the original creation as is gold. 85. After the supernova explosion, the rare gold AU 79 atoms were cast deep into this universe, where they sit in empty space for 9 billion eons as baby sits for 9 months. 86. Eventually some join as atoms to form a cloud, which condenses into a planet. Yabab, Geb, and Natat, Nut, or Earth and Seed. 87. Once inside a Kawak planet, Natatat, some of the atoms, cell, sperm, make their way to the surface, ovum, where you see it shines forth, or you uncover a gold nugget, a rough lump of pure gold, AU 79. 88. Each of you travel 9,000 miles for 9 million light years, my Aye Mumbatu, my golden children. Understand? So this is obviously explaining to us what we're talking about here in terms of this correlation. Do you understand? And how our design, or that the way in which we have been designed, you understand, it for lack of a better word, you understand, it is in resonance or echoes from the original, and the link is still there, understand? But as I say, we have to not only acknowledge it or become aware of that link, but this is what you're seeing in the various books being put out, where the master is opening your eyes again to see into the darkness. You're saying, and understand, as I say, that true puzzle, what it looks like. Understand? And knowing the body, or knowing the human body, at least, do you understand, is the window in which to gain that understanding, as long as obviously this the beautiful words which are informing one's mind, once again, to see what we've been blinded for, or blinded with for so many years, now being our eyes being opened and it being made clear. You understand? And note that as heavy as this class appeared to be, that was the beginning. Or this master secret, simply the beginning. Understand? But as he's saying here, I do hope you all, my beloved children, are able to understand this divine ontology. Yeah, this patterning, yeah, link back to the source, the original. Understand? Yeah, we have to understand it, you have to know it, because that's how our ancestors thought, and that's why you see the ancient Egyptians with their various different ways of showing symbolism, understand, understood, yeah, these divine patterns, understand, and made their environment conducive towards that, because they understood the ascension pathway and understood who they were and who we are today. Any questions then before we close?
There are no questions.
No questions. So very quiet today. Quiet.
Yeah, no questions.
So we'll deal with this part of act next week, all expanding, so we can go even further and build upon what we discussed. What we discussed today, so you can get an understanding of what we mean when we're saying pa pa'ut and pa'ut, and how it relates to not only you, but as we talked about earlier, in the universe on into the ninth point, which is the multiverses, and that true unity in the same picture that we're building as part of this. Okay, so if there's no questions then, I appreciate everybody turning up today to listen to another class, or I say Outformation class from All Eyes in Egypt, Midlands and the North. As I say, check out our YouTube channel. Just simply search on YouTube, All Eyes in Egypt, Midlands and North. And we'll continue this class, as I say, we're starting with all expanding parts of act, and start to delve even a bit deeper, more into the concepts being expressed to us from the proof by way of Pa Nabab Yaanuwn. Okay, everybody take care. We will see you next time, same time next Sunday at 1 o'clock. Take care all. Stay safe.